Hello, everyone, and welcome to Podtacular, the unofficial Halo Universe podcast. I'm your host, Duststorm, and tonight we're going to be talking about the Halo World Championship Finals that took place a couple weeks ago, all the way over in Hollywood, California, where 16 of the best teams from around the world competed for their share of $2.5 million. And to recount the journey of going there and for all the teams that participated, I have with me the long-lost Fluffy Puppy, a.k.a. Nak3d Eli.
Hey! What's up, everybody?
How's it going? It's been a while.
It has been a while since I've made a public appearance. For those of you who watched the video on my channel recently, you heard about my gamer tag debacle, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Halo World Championship since I happened to be there.
Yes, we both happened to be there, and you gracefully and willingly, believe it or not, let me stay at your place for the entire weekend, which is awesome. So
it was fun. It was fun. And you fixed my capture card, which took only 4 hours of intense awesomeness. So thank you for that.
That was crazy. I'm happy it's fixed though. Because hopefully
hopefully I get a stream running. Yes, yeah. That would be awesome. So Dusty, how do you want to kick this convo off?
I want to kick it off with actually, I want to jump into an interview straight off the bat. I know it's a little unheard of, but I have 4 different interviews that I was able to capture during the weekend. And the first one I have is from Team Epsilon, who is from the UK. They were the sole international team that actually made it in the top 8. So out of all 16 teams, there were 8 international teams. And for people that have listened to the podcast already, people know that I really wanted to see at least 2 teams, international teams, make it to the top 8. And at least we had one.
You got half of your dreams fulfilled, Dusty.
Half of my dreams fulfilled.
Half of your dreams fulfilled is better than none of your dreams fulfilled.
Yes, I would agree. And that actually opens the doors for hopefully some more international teams to start getting together. And with the Pro League being announced, and that possibly having some international setups as well, we might be getting a little more involvement from the international scene. So I want to jump straight into an interview that I did with Epsilon after the second day of competition.
Hello, everyone. This is Duststorm reporting from the Halo World Championships. I'm sitting down with Team Epsilon eSports from the UK. I am sitting with Jimbo, Buck57, Buck20, Snipe Drone, and Flames, who's the captain of Epsilon. So thank you for taking the chance to sit down with me, taking some time out of your games to talk. So what is it like being over in the States to play Halo against people from around the world? I bet it's kind of a little bit different, seeing some different talent and getting the chance to actually play against some different people for a change.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's nice to come over and play against the best teams in the world, basically. We played at X Games last month. But we kind of got a hunger there to play against North American teams after being Renegades there. So, yeah, it's great. It's great to be in LA. And we're really enjoying it so far. And we've come out strong so far. So, yeah, really enjoying it.
Good. What's kind of the big thing that you've taken away from being over here in the States for this tournament so far? Is there something that kind of really sticks out to you?
Just how much Europe's improved as a region mainly. Well, I say how Europe's improved. It's mainly been us, sadly, because the other European teams haven't performed as well as we'd like them to. But I definitely say it's shown that Europe can play Halo very well compared to the North American scene.
Yeah. So what is it like in the European scene for Halo? Because I mean, a lot of this competitive focus, unfortunately, falls on North America from what we've seen from MLG in the past. So how is it like playing competitively over in the European side of Halo?
So the European Halo scene's quite, I think it still has a few more years to kind of grow and get bigger. It's kind of quite kind of almost immature, quite kind of new in its era of Halo. There's a few good French teams and German teams, but in terms of Europe as a whole, it's not that great. The individual skill is quite good, but in terms of teamwork and chemistry and also the dedication side of things, it's just not in the same standard as America yet. So I think after the European teams see us and see how well we've been doing in the Halo World Championships, hopefully that kind of drives them to play more and also trying to improve a lot more. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. I think it's just one of them things where it's different from PC gaming where Europe kind of dominates that. So it's almost the opposite on console gaming right now. So I think just give it a few more years and Europe will finally get to the same level as America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the time we'll hopefully have our third world championship, and
Yeah,
we'll get
hopefully,
to see a lot of more international teams represented, which would be really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
So I've said a few times on my podcast I would like to see 2 European, or not necessarily European, but 2 international teams make the top 8. You have 2 other UK teams here with you guys, Infused and Excel. And then you have the German team that's also from representing the EU part of the World Championship, which is FOB. So what do you think is a good chance for seeing maybe 2 European teams actually make the top 8?
I think us ourselves, we're in a pretty good position. Excel and Infused, they have big games today and tomorrow where I think we have it is a big game for us tomorrow, but it is not a team that we're worried about. So we're in a better position than Infused and Excel. So if I had to pick between Infused and Excel, I'd say Infused would be the other European team that I would bet on to make top 8 with us. But
yeah, they beat us in Germany as well, so they showed they're a good team.
Yeah, but anything can happen on the day. I think it's just like any other sport. You can practice all you want, but it all comes down to on the day how you perform. And we'll see today how Infused perform.
Yeah. So what has been kind of your mindset leading up to the World Championship finals? Have you guys done anything different, kind of going from you're being competed regionally in Europe, and now you're here in the States and you're going against everyone in the world? Has your mindset changed a little bit? Do you approach things a little bit differently with that, or is it kind of the same? You're just kind of approaching different teams, like analysis and all that kind of stuff?
So our mindset's changed a bit. I think before we used to play games and kind of focus on like just improving things. Like now it's like we've got to the point where we've kind of almost perfected our game. Almost we're trying to make sure we minimize mistakes. Also in terms of like what we do day to day is we watch North American teams a lot more. So we were ready. Like this event, we'd watch like CLG, EG, and like anybody we can on stream. We watch their streams, watch their VOD, subscribe to their Twitch channel so we can watch their VOD, which is annoying, but it's worth it. And we had our coach, Dan, as well. Dan has been watching all of the kind of pro scrims and stuff to making sure we keep up on like who's winning what games, what strong game types for other teams are the best. And just kind of big practice and making sure we focus on mistakes rather than at the moment we should have been really on top of our game. Like we should know what to do. It's about minimizing mistakes and making sure we don't give the other team any options to win.
I think as well our weakest game type coming into this tournament was Slayer.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically, we've actually beaten CLG in one Slayer.
We haven't dropped a Slayer yet. We won both Slayers in both our series. It's kind of
back
weird.
In the European scene, we struggled to win any Slayers. I mean, we got quite lucky with we had one of our game types that we're pretty good at was Slayer on Rig. So it was pretty lucky to get that. But then we had Slayer on Colosseum, which
sometimes win, but
we're kind of 50-50
it's a bit sketchy.
But against CLG, like it was like, did we just win that? And
I think if someone told us you're going to come into Worlds and beat CLG on Colosseum TS, we'd be like, really? You sure? But yeah, we're normally more objective focused, but we definitely improved Slayers and it shows, so it's good.
Yeah. So Flames, as a coach, what kind of stuff have you seen through watching other teams that you look out for now that you're here at the World Championship? Has there been stuff that you've noticed watching VODs and watching other competitive streams in the other regionals that you've picked up on and now you're kind of looking out for the team as you're coaching?
Okay, so most of the time when I'm watching teams, I spend it watching North American teams, obviously, because they set the highest standards. The main difference between Europe and North America, from what I could pick up on, was North America are a lot more aggressive as a team. So any small advantages, they just go for it. Whereas European teams tend to be more like passive. They don't want to make bold plays. But we've definitely gone over it together as a team, what we need to do to compete with those NA teams. And we know when we're playing well and when we're playing aggressively together, we can beat anyone.
Also, Dan's been, every time we scrim online or practice online, Dan's, when he can, if it's not working, he's always in our games or in our Discord chat. So he's there watching us play and kind of listening to our call outs so he can see what we're doing wrong, where we need to improve on, and kind of showing us in real time what we should do better. Which really does help because some coaches can't give that level of commitment, but Dan has been able to. So it really helps in terms of like we're one big team and we're all in it to try and win, and it's really good to have a coach like that.
Also, in terms of my coaching, like before I started coaching these guys, I used to play kind of at a top-ish kind of level in Europe, so I understand the game just as well as any other top player in Europe. I can give my input, and the guys take my input as they would if it was another player. So it's kind of like the whole team. We all trust each other. If somebody has a point to make, we all sit there and we talk about it and we debate it with each other and come to the best, what we think is the best conclusion. So it is a 5-man team. We all work together and we all know what we need to do to win.
And that's one of the cool things to see, that a lot of the stuff that translates from North American competitive is kind of being picked up by the international teams, and you guys are really trying to adjust and adopt to the play styles of other teams. Now, coming into this, arguably, and the North American teams probably have the higher edge against a lot of other people, but Australia and Europe would kind of be the second and third place right behind that. So there's a pretty good, I think, opportunity to see you guys really kind of get into some of the top tier positions in the tournament. Do you guys think that you have enough understanding of some of the North American strategies to get to the finals and possibly take home the championship?
Definitely. Over a year, like Alex said, over a year or two, I reckon European can catch up. As long as, because we are like a couple steps behind the North American scene, as long as we just like keep on improving, then definitely can see us, within a year or two catching up.
Cool. So in playing for the championship, have you guys had to tweak any kind of play styles specifically? I know you mentioned that Slayer was weak, and you've actually kind of changed that, and you're actually able to complete in a Slayer setting. Have there been any other changes that have been significant that you've had to change to your game in order to compete for this?
So I think before, about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, when we were practicing, we tried changing to act like American team, to play really aggressive. Didn't really work out for us, so we went back to being what we're good at, kind of playing smart, playing it quite slow sometimes, but making sure we get the right kills when we need them, and making sure we don't give away stupid deaths and stuff like that. Yeah, we didn't really change much in terms of kind of general play style. It's just been the same. We're doing what we normally do. We've been a team now for a year and a bit now, I think. So we know how each other play. So yeah, it's just playing as a team, playing together as one unit.
Nice. So one other big part of the Halo community is Griffball, and Griffball has a European league. Have you heard of the European Griffball League?
I haven't actually heard of the European one. I've seen some of the leagues.
Yeah?
I've seen some in North America, so it's fun. I remember watching some of the streams. It is fun to watch.
Have you ever thought about like getting involved with that kind of stuff just for fun?
Oh, I get so frustrated playing that. I can't handle it.
When we can't get a game on like Arena or that Team Arena, we go into Griffball just for fun sometimes. Nice. And we normally beat most teams, but then you come across like some really good individual player who like kind of soars across the map and can score on you no matter what. So I wouldn't really want to play against that. It'd probably take another couple of years to get us up to that level for Griffball at least. But yeah, it sounds really interesting, and it's good to see Halo being used in more dynamic ways and different ways than usual. And Griffball is also a really fun game type to play as well.
Especially with our strats. We've got our Epsilon strat. We just throw each other, like grab ham each other across the map when we've got the bomb and stuff like that. So nice. We have our own little strats for Griffball, and it is funny to see him execute well. Especially with like the new Halo 5 abilities and stuff like that, like ground pounding and just like being able to jump a lot further. It's a lot of fun playing Griffball, but it's frustrating at the same time.
Yeah. So let's kind of turn a little bit to the game specifically. So we talked a lot about the ACS already, but what do you guys feel about Halo 5? Do you guys like how it plays? Does it kind of... There's been a lot of comparisons to Halo 2. Does it kind of bring back some fond memories? What do you guys like about Halo 5?
It's probably, I would have to say, the most fast-paced Halo out of all of them.
Is that a good thing, or is that something...
I think I personally love that. I personally love that, and I think it kind of suits us in a way. We kind of play really well when it's hectic, but at the same time, it's strange thing. We played well when it's hectic, but we kind of know what each other are doing when it's hectic. So that works to our advantage.
Compared to previous titles, Halo 5, like Mike said, it's a lot quicker compared to like previous, like Halo 2. When you watch it now, it seems so slow paced, and it's not frosted. There's not people thrusting out of BR shots and just like flying around the map with ground pound and stuff like that. But Halo 5 is definitely. It's just as hard as Halo 2 back then. I remember playing Halo 2 back then, like I was a lot younger. I could barely fit my hand around a controller, but like I remember playing it and it was really hard, and it's still hard now playing Halo 5. I think Halo 4 and Halo Reach and things like that, it didn't feel like it was as competitive compared to something like Halo 2 or Halo 3 or Halo 5 now. But Halo 5 to me is becoming one of the best Halos that I think I've played. But yeah, Halo 5 is a very good game, in my opinion.
So Halo 5 for me is definitely my favorite Halo out of all of them so far. So I did play a bit of Halo 2 and a bit of Halo 3. When Reach and Halo 4 out, I carried on playing Halo 3 throughout because I didn't like Reach. I didn't like Halo 4, excuse me. But as soon as Halo 5 has been released, like the whole skill gap with individual skill is totally back for me. Like I go back and play Halo 2 and Halo 3 on like last week, for example, and I just can't do it. Like it seems so slow. I just want to run from point A to point B and just be there in like 2 seconds, but I have to walk slowly. Yeah. But I just think like the main thing for me is the skill gap. Like winning an individual battle on Halo 5 is takes a lot more skill than it does on Halo 2 or Halo 3, in my opinion, anyway. So that's the thing I like the most about it.
And there's a lot of new stuff with Spartan abilities and the whole movement system, like you mentioned, is a lot faster now. And there's lots more ways to get into battle really quickly.
Yeah, I think Jim's one of the biggest fans of Spartan abilities. He loves ground pound. He's self-proclaimed. I wouldn't say self-proclaimed. It's more just kind of community kind of.
It used to be self-proclaimed. Apparently, I don't really remember saying like. Now there's been a hashtag around on Twitter from this weekend saying ground pound king, which I'm more than happy to take. But yeah, I do love all the abilities. It makes it fun.
So ever since like we went to 343 Studios before the game came out, and we were just kind of testing out the game and playing against Optic Gaming, and Jim was probably the first one to kind of master or start using the ground pound. So and every game he used it. And this is against like Optic Gaming, who are all professional Halo players in America, and he's just running around ground pounding them for fun.
And then I could hear him in the background saying, "He just did it to me again." And it's just like,
yeah, it's one of the things.
Maniac was moaning like crazy for that. That was pretty fun.
So yeah, it's probably one of the best abilities they brought into the game because it brings like a whole new kind of area of the game where you can kind of go clutch with ground pounds or kind of help your teams in certain ways to kind of ground pound, cancel it out, and then ground pound again kind of thing. So it's just one of the things which is really new to Halo, and also it shows that you can bring more things into Halo as long as you do it in the right way. I think with Halo Reach, with like the evade and a few other Spartan abilities, it didn't work that well. So I think the 343 guys and the guys working on the Halo game have actually gone back and figured out what works well and what can work well. And also having the pro team as well, the guys that will actually live in Seattle in the 343 studios, that obviously helps a lot in terms of competitive play start on games. So yeah, I think Halo 5 probably is one of the best games for Halo ever.
Another thing about the Spartan abilities as well is during a game of Halo 5, you'll probably see at least 3 or 4 situations where somebody reversals somebody, kills them when they shouldn't, simply because they've used the Spartan abilities, crouching and thrusting, and they win a battle that they really shouldn't. So that's really enjoyable as well from a spectator point of view. So it adds another aspect to the game. Halo 3, for example, if you're in a BR fight with somebody, it's just side to side. Both players strafing side to side.
Occasional jump.
Yeah.
Yep.
Whereas Halo 5 is crouch, jump, thrust to the right, crouch back down, ground pound off a wall, shoot. It brings a lot of different aspects to the game, which I personally think is really good.
So do you think that introduces a wider skill gap, or does that just make for a lot more random encounters, and it's just another piece of Halo that has to be accounted for?
It's another thing that pros have got to be able to perfectly like know when to do it, what situation is best to do it. It does cause some random stuff because sometimes ground pounds just end up looking really weird and stuff like that, but it does bring an extra thing that a pro player needs to be aware of and know that it's going to happen. Say, for example, someone flying up a lift, they've got to be prepared that someone's could ground pound them and stuff like that. So it's something that I know a pro player does have to be aware of and know what situation is best to do it, or what situation you're going to get ground pounded or spine charged or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. So I think it was kind of random at the start and at the beginning of Halo 5 because no one understood how to use the abilities properly. But I think now that it's gone to Halo World Championships, it's been like Halo 5's been around for a couple of months now. People understand how to use them in the right way and how to execute the plays in the right way. So I think we're kind of seeing people to start mastering them abilities and how it works. Whereas in the first few weeks, people were running around ground pounding for no reason, like Jim. And then also just running around with a Spartan charging for no reason. Whereas now it's been used in a really tactical way, which is really good to see.
I haven't changed the way I do it. I still do it, just be annoying. Mainly me.
So what's the one map and game type you guys think you're like kings at? Like if there's one map and game mode that you had to play, and if it was like the last game of a series, what's the one map and game mode that you want to play?
So yeah, I was just whispering to Jim to make sure we agreed on this. So Rig Slayer, I'd say. Normally it's just a kind of giving game type for us. If we can get the sniper at the start and get camera control, we'd win it most games. Normally you put sniper drone in a corner, basically in back of BR in the bunker, and then let him just take faces, basically.
Even strongholds as well.
Even strongholds we're quite good at. And also in terms of comebacks, we're really good at it. If we're losing by like 10, 20 kills, we get a set up, we hold it, and we just pick off kills one by one and bring back the leads. So yeah.
We brought a 30-point comeback from versus Fabe, I think, at one point in scrims.
There's a crazy comeback on one of our YouTube channels, which is like a 30-kill comeback on Rig TS, which is insane.
We get 30 kills by the time they got 5 or something like that, just because we know how to execute that map so well. And we know all the different angles and jumps you can do.
Also on Rig TS, I don't think any of the American teams know how to play it properly yet. It's quite a bold statement, but they all seem to run around, whereas we're more kind of structured in our play style. and it really does work. We played against Cloud9 on it, and we actually beat them 50-34, I think it was, or around that. Yeah, so it was quite an easy game for us to win because we knew how to play the map, whereas all the American teams seem to still think it's best to just run around in the group and not know where the other team's going to spawn. So we're a lot more kind of concise and kind of clear in terms of our strategy for that map. So it'll be interesting to see if we play any other American teams on that game type, how well we do.
And one of the things that I know Goldenboy is a real proponent for is the plasma caster. What's your guys' feeling on that weapon? Like he loves the plasma caster. He thinks it's like the new meta, and then the scatter shot is like
So scatter shot, it gives you there's lots of opportunities for kind of horrible situations when you're shooting people and they fly past you, or you shoot yourself with it, or something crazy. But like the plasma caster, I personally like using it. It's awesome. Like on the rig, you can like just rain plasma grenades down on the railgun and stuff. But I think it's still, people are just starting to get good at it. Like Alex said before, people are starting to actually learn how to use the weapons and abilities now. So it's actually one of the guns this weekend even. I've seen people use it really efficiently. So I think it could definitely bring a new level to the kind of meta of Halo 5.
To me, the plasma caster is not something I'd like go off spawn and go run for, but like a scatter shot I would. But the caster, if it's used in the right way, it's so deadly. It's just insane. Me personally, I don't use it as much. I feel like I should a bit more, but like I wouldn't prioritize it. But the scatter shot is just it's insane. It is just literally like another shotgun, but you can bounce it around walls and stuff like that. Like, when you hit it off a wall, it does actually have like a little was it like
homing?
Yeah, homing,
Kind of,
which is insane to like pull that off.
Yep.
So the scatter shot is definitely like a priority. But yeah, the plasma caster is a bit different, but it can be used very, very well.
I think on Rig Slag, like when we played Cloud9, we was outside at one point, and basically you want to be on the inside of the map, and it's quite hard to break. And I actually just kept going for plasma caster, as it's probably one of the only ways you can break the setup, because it's with the radar, it's not easy to use, but it helps you a lot more to be able to use a weapon. Where I would say on maps like Truth, it's not as useful. It is still, it's too open, I think. So I would say it's probably more important to get on Rig.
It's like 15 plasma grenades, isn't it? Basically, it's literally you'd be able to like spam 15 plasma grenades around a corner within a split second. So yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, there's some moments that just turn into absolute nade fest in some of these games.
It's like you can't get away from that situation. If you see it come around the corner, you're most likely dead.
Yeah, someone's happy. So you guys have played 2 games so far, or 2 matches. You won against Cloud9 3-1, and you lost to CLG 1-3, and then you're playing Skyfire tomorrow. So you're in a pretty good position, it sounds like, to make top 8 and get put into the bracket play. Who would be one of the teams that you would like to go up against first?
So
to make your chances better for the Final Four.
So at the moment, it's looking like we're going to come out second of our group. Well, we are going to come out second, hopefully, as long as we win our next game. So we're going to be playing a first seed in the groups. So really, we've got, I think
it's either going to be Liquid,
Denial,
most
likely, or Renegades.
Renegades.
Yeah.
We good for us. We actually can't get matched up against CLG, which even though we felt we've done really well against them, which has kind of put us in a really confident way in going up against all the other teams, because they're the best team in the world. But I would have to say, personally, for me, I would want to play probably Renegades again.
Yeah, even though they came out strong against EG, we've played them before, we know how to play, so I feel like
we beat them at X Games. So
yeah, we beat them at X Games, it was 3-1. Was it? Yeah, 3-1. So yeah, we feel like if we played them again, we'd be quite comfortable playing them. Denial, we've not played ever, so it'd be kind of a new experience. But seeing as CLG dominated every other team at North American regionals, we feel like if we play against any team now, we should have confidence to go and try and take the series.
Good. That's good for my hopes. At least that there's 2 international teams that make it.
Yeah, so yeah, we're really confident in making it. I think top 8, we're guaranteed almost guaranteed top 8 from tomorrow morning, and then from there we just want to go as far as we can. So yeah.
Nice. So, question for Coach. What's one thing that you've seen so far just from gameplay for the first day of World Champions that you see you might need to like discuss or talk over as you play your other games for this weekend?
The main thing I've noticed probably is the different flag routes that teams are taking, like the North American teams. It seems like they've really thought about it and gone over it where the best way to run the flag is dependent on where the other team is spawning. Whereas, in an earlier flag game that we played, we kind of carried on running it the same way. We carried on dying. We didn't really learn. But after watching the other teams play, like we realised that there are a lot of different flag routes that we can take. which we're definitely going to go over tonight, talk about it, work on it, and come back tomorrow and definitely implement it into our game. So that's the main thing for me.
Cool. I know one thing that a lot of people in the community have been asking is, what's your controller layout? That's like a big community question.
The amount of times I've got that on my Twitch stream is insane.
I figure I might as well ask it because someone's going to ask it at some point.
So mine is bumper jumper, 4 sensitivity, and then 3 acceleration. And I think, as far as I'm aware, I have every other like option off, except from the animation, the disable animation, which I've got on because we don't want to waste time doing animations. For dead zones, they're both 0%.
And I think that's the same across all our team, really, isn't it? We're all 4.
Mine's the only one that's different.
Mike's weird.
Guys. And I'll tell you why. Back in like
his own route.
Yep.
Back in Halo 3, I used to play bumper jumper, but then I remember watching MLG, and one of my favorite players was Snipe Down.
Fanboy.
And I'm a massive fanboy of him. Basically, I learned that he played on this different setting to everyone else, which was called Boxer. And I was like, what? And I learned that he played with vibration on. So one day I just switched to it and played all day on these settings, thinking, he's going to make me play like him, which was stupid. No, I didn't.
That never
I
happened.
got so used to playing on these settings that I didn't want to go back to bumper jumper. So I kind of just stuck with these settings. So yeah, I play on Boxer 4 cents, 2 acceleration, dead zones off. So, yeah, massive fanboy.
You have to be different, don't you? You have to be different.
Well, it's work, man. I've got to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm glad I changed it.
Nice. Well, any last comments or words regarding the tournament before we wrap this up? I appreciate you guys taking the chance to sit down.
Thank you for having us. No, I think other than that, just shout out to Halo for sending us over here. It was awesome. Really nice of them. It's been a really cool event so far. It looked
venue.
Andy yourself for running the tournament. It's really cool. Mark, who's running the league ops, is a really cool guy. Really helpful.
Could be a bit better.
Yeah, there's been a few technical difficulties, but they've been really helpful. So yeah, it's been a really great run event. Thanks to Halo for sending us out here. Really nice of them.
Awesome. Well, thanks Epsilon for taking a chance to sit down with us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, good luck to the tournament, and by the time this is out, everyone will probably know what your fate is.
Yeah,
if you're champions or not.
Nice.
Should we
Be
predict?
nice.
Shall we predict?
Be nice.
Should we predict? Should we predict where we want to go?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Predict our placement, not
placement.
predicting like top 8 or something like that.
No, what placement? Like, because top 8's
First,
almost
yeah.
first. Jim goes first.
Yeah.
Alex says top 2. I'm gonna be a bit more like reserved and say top 4, just because of
No faith.
No, because I'm just thinking we could have like
No faith.
okay. I'll say top.
I would say the least.
Yeah, I'm saying least
place top 4 as well.
No faith.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'd have a third and we won't place top 8.
Yeah, I agree. Top 4.
No
I think
faith.
that's realistic and definitely achievable.
Jim's here thinking about the gold medal
I
right
had
now.
high expectations.
It's still possible. Nothing's impossible.
Not with that attitude.
There's being cocky and there's being
Smart.
Realistic.
I don't know what the word
Yeah, where you going with that
Realistic.
one?
Realistic.
realistic. No, not realistic. There's being
Reserved.
cocky, but being professional
Yeah.
and being.
Jim doesn't care.
You got to be.
You see that face?
He's in it to win it. He's
Yeah.
dedicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully you come out of top 2. See. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's cool.
All right. Well, thank you guys for taking a chance to sit down again, and
Welcome.
good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that was our interview with Epsilon, and I have to say that was actually one of the best interviews I've ever had. They're all really polite. They're really great to talk to, and you'll hear another interview that I actually did with Immunity, who's from Australia, a little bit later on. And really, there's just kind of a different attitude that the international teams have, I guess, when playing. And talking with Epsilon, one of the things that you just heard was that Americans are a lot more aggressive. I guess the international teams are a lot more passive in their play style. So it's very interesting. It seems a little more gentlemanlike and a little more, I don't know. It just seemed like it had a lot better vibe to doing interviews with international teams. So I just have to give huge thanks to Epsilon. And then they had a brand manager there, and he was really great. Met him the first day, and we got the interview together, and it was awesome. So huge thanks to them.
So Dusty, what you're saying is that the international teams are actually more aggressive in their play style than the Americans?
No, so the Americans from
or vice versa.
Vice versa. So Epsilon was saying the Americans are more aggressive in their play style than the international teams are.
Oh, Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Sorry, I don't know why I misheard that, but because Europeans, even just as a culture, they're like super laid back and they're chill and they're like sipping beers, watching the game.
A lot more polite.
And Americans, what's that?
A lot more polite.
Yeah, exactly.
Typically.
So obviously we're stereotyping here. Obviously there are counters to all of these stereotypes. But it's interesting. It is interesting that their culture plays into their play style. I think also Halo 5 was designed to be an aggressive game because of its extensive mobility and speed. The players who can use those tools at a faster pace, in my opinion, probably think that I would think that they would win more often, right? We've seen that in previous games like Halo 3 on the pit, for example. Sometimes it does make sense to sit at midfield and to be a little more passive in your positioning, even though you're aggressively spawn killing. But I think in Halo 5, because of the way the maps were created and the way the spawn system works, like you really can just run around running and gunning. And the teams that do that best as a unit, like CLG, just seem to be completely dominant.
And it was very evident with the finals. I know we're kind of jumping ahead here a little bit, but one of the things that CLG really did well was able to apply pressure to just about every team they came across. And you could really tell with how determined they were to get to certain places. And then some of the teams that they played against, you could tell they were getting frustrated or they were chasing after kills that they shouldn't have chased after. And CLG, throughout the entire weekend, just had the gameplay and the mindset that fit that aggressive role. And that's one of the reasons why they won.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's kind of like, I think of it like a game of chess, right? Like you can play an aggressive match where you're constantly pushing pieces into the enemy territory and then you're protecting your pieces as you're moving them forward. CLG did something very similar where they will advance, but they're going to make sure that that player has support, whether it's right next to them or from afar, so that if they are running back and the enemy, it does chase that kill and they're half shield, then the other player will help clean up the kill. I mean, that's a very like overly simplified model, but you want to be the person forcing the plays rather than having the plays forced upon you. And CLG executed that pretty flawlessly.
They did a very good job at that, and you could tell throughout the group, not the group play, the bracket play on Saturday, that they just dominated whoever they came across, and they were pretty much the performing team that entire weekend, and it really goes to show, and that's one of the reasons why they won. To some people's chagrin, but they were the ones that put out the best gameplay, really.
Yeah, it's funny because I felt like the whole, especially the finals, was very much like CLG being like the arch nemesis of Nak3d, and everyone, the whole crowd was rooting for the underdog team to win. But it just didn't happen, right? And so the question is like, can you still respect CLG as a team for putting on that performance? And the answer is obviously, or I would assume yes, right? That if you do analyze the gameplay, break it down, they really do work as a team. Like, it's not that they're all just very individually talented, but that it's like they put in huge amounts of time to develop their teamwork. I heard they even have a playbook where they sit down, they analyze other teams' plays, and they go over the strategies on how to counter the other team's formations. So yeah, I don't want to skip ahead to the finals. I'm sure we'll get there eventually, but I wanted to add, who's the team, Dusty, with the guys who were at PAX Prime, who we hung out with last year? Evil Geniuses was the international team with
international team?
Yeah, it was the international team, and oh my god, Chalky getting like the snipe overkill, and we all did the Chalky chant. Which team is he on?
It was one of the UK
Poss
teams.
Probably knows this. Yeah. I feel so bad. I forgot their team name. They're all such cool dudes. And I was talking to them after after basically the whole tournament was over. And they said CLG is just so dominant on these game types and these maps and these settings that no combination of players in the current player pool could beat them. Even if you thought you put like the dream team together, they would not be able to beat CLG because they're just that good. No, we're talking PAX Prime H2A, Haas. They're Chalky and his boys were at that event and competed in the H2A tournament. I think this was a year and a half ago. And then they were there this past weekend. They got flown in. So Dust, I'll let you carry it on. I don't want to control the flow of the conversation. I have so many things I want to say.
No, it's good. I'm trying to figure out which team it is because I think the international team or the UK teams were Excel, Infused, and Epsilon or Excel 5. No, I don't know. I'm looking at all the teams that came to the World Championships, and they don't seem familiar. I could probably look it up on the Google search, but
I think it's Team Infused. It's Infused because I just looked it up and it's Team Infused. So
okay,
yeah, they were the ones who said that CLG is just so dominant. Like, there's no way that any team could beat them, which is scary. And to me, says that Halo 5's competitive settings were not tuned properly. It's either that or there needs to be some sort of a commissioner who can break up the teams. I just don't think we have enough of a player pool to do that in Halo.
Yeah, this is the first season, I guess, for lack of better words, for Halo 5. So there's going to be changes that are going to be made for hopefully the future seasons, because for the competitive series, all the settings were pretty much out of the box for the Halo World Championship and for throughout the Halo 5 season so far. So I'm guessing there's going to be some examining from the pro team of, okay, how can we really nail this down from a competitive perspective, look at different weapon placements, and I'm assuming now we're going to have Oddball thrown in there as well as Assault, because those modes are now added to the Halo 5 sandbox, and possibly some other game modes that will be coming down the line. But one thing that was kind of interesting to note too was that Breakout, which was 343's pretty much competitive game mode, the one that they really pushed for, is nowhere to be found in Halo 5.
Non-existent.
Yeah.
Yep, didn't see it once.
So I'm really curious to kind of know what the mindset is with the whole competitive scene, because I can understand maybe staying a little safe on the side of, okay, the game modes that are in Halo or that have traditionally been in Halo are probably a good safe spot, but when you engineered a game mode that was specifically targeted towards competitive, granted, with us playing it, Breakout isn't quite as fun for a lot of people, and I don't think 343 got quite the feedback as they were thinking they would for Breakout. It is one of those things you spent so much resources on making this game mode specifically for competitive, and then it's not in your competitive scene.
But that's kind of how product development works, right? You're going to make a product and you're going to expect your audience to react a certain way. But when you're a giant company and you don't get the giant test bed of internal testing with the right audience, then you might be surprised when the world plays it for 2 days and then gets over it, right? There's no way to know how millions of people are going to respond to this game mode until it's out there and it's live. And focus groups, they're going to play it once or twice and they're going to be like, man, that was fun. Or they'll play for maybe 10 hours even. And they'll say, that was great. But you don't have people playing it day in, day out for weeks, developing strategies, seeing if it actually is competitive. And so when you put it out in the real world, it's a brand new test that Microsoft wasn't able to do internally. It doesn't surprise me. It reminds me of Griffball in Halo 3. And I know a lot of you Griffballers out there are probably going to hate me for this, but I loved Griffball for a week. It was awesome. It was new. It was fresh. And then I was over it. I was like, okay, that was a cool new game mode. I really appreciated that they put this in there and they made this fun. But ultimately, it's not the Halo that we all know and love, right? It's not classic Halo, first to 50 kills, first to 3 flag caps. And I think part of Halo 5 has been to bring back that classic sense of Halo. And they want people tuning in to sort of see Halo in its new form, but have it be traditional enough that old players will still recognize it and still appreciate it. So I don't know if it was a design choice to not put Breakout in for that reason, or if it was a combination of that and the competitive community not picking it up because maybe it just wasn't complex enough for them.
And the round-based thing, I would imagine, kind of slows down some of the gameplay, where you have a lot more tense situations where it is one round and you're going for a objective where you're going with Slayer. So it makes a little sense, but it also kind of, to me, it kind of says that they're still trying to figure out what 343's competitive formula is, because obviously with Bungie, we had a pretty set, this is what competitive Halo is. I mean, during Halo 2, it was solid. Halo 3 was the next big step in that direction. Halo Reach was kind of a mixed, it kind of got received very weirdly in the community. Some people really liked it, some people really didn't, but didn't exactly kill off the competitive scene too much. Halo 4 kind of did that. But we have a lot of, it seems like there's a lot of stuff still going on within the studio to try to figure out, okay, what is 343's competitive Halo and what does it look like?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. From what I've gathered from the players, they're so supremely confused as to why radar is still in the game. And obviously everyone knows, like you said earlier, it's because that's the default settings. That's just what, Halo looks like now to the average player. But competitive Halo has always separated itself from non-competitive Halo with its own maps, with no radar, with different modifications to make it more balanced, whether it's changing the jump height or the movement speed. I think that it's great to have your audience be able to identify with the settings that you use, but that means that your settings out of the box better be perfect, like flawlessly balanced. And radar, according to the players that I talked to, they said if radar is in the game, then it just basically makes CLG too dominant. And I don't know why they say that. It's clear from their gameplay. You might ask, why can't other players just abuse the radar? But it seems like the current mix of settings is not enough to create different strata of like competitive quality, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can agree with that for sure. And there's still more settings that I think can be looked at least from the pro team. One of the things being radar. Now, I think one of the arguments that 343 might come back with on the radar is instead of the 25 meters, it's 18. But there's still a lot of instances where you have people that would be sneaking up behind that it wouldn't. I mean, if you were actually crouching and sneaking, of course you wouldn't show up on radar. But there's still a lot of situations where if the radar wasn't there, there would be a lot more. There should be a lot more teamwork, a lot more chatter, I think. So hopefully it's something that they'll at least kind of consider, because I do think having the settings exactly the same as they are in like out of the box Halo isn't setting the competitive scene apart necessarily from just your average Joe. And like you said, it does help kind of meet halfway with people that are watching so they can understand what's going on the screen, but it is competitive, so you need to have that competitive edge there to help kind of separate the average Joe and the actual competitive players.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me.
That skill gap, I think, needs to be even greater still.
Yeah, they're from talking to the players, it's just like change the settings, Microsoft. Like, do not keep them the same was the big takeaway for me, at least.
Yeah, that makes sense. But
and player, the average player watching is not going to be like, oh man, I don't understand this form of Halo because there's no radar, right? Instead, I think people will be impressed. They'll be like, wow, these guys are playing the same Halo as me, but they're handicapped. They have no radar. That makes the game so much harder. Let's see the plays that they make, not knowing where everyone is immediately, right?
So you were part of something way back in the Halo, I guess, Reach days, BigTeamBattle.net.
Mm-hmm. That is correct.
What were some of the things that you guys really looked at Big Team with? Because you started in Reach, right?
We started in Reach. There were several teams who dated back to the Halo 3 and even the Halo 2 days. Those are the true OGs. They used to just go through the Big Team Battle playlist, and there were 8 of them. And well, the teams had more than 8, in case they had any empty spots. There were always people willing to join in their clans and then later on their friends lists. But they realized like these game modes are so broken. If you get control of vehicles in Halo 2 or Halo 3, it's GG. Like you just completely control the map because regular weapons are not anti-vehicle. Especially Halo 3, think Valhalla. If you get the Banshees and if you get their Warthog, like you can just spawn kill for days, right? And that's what some teams would do. So they needed to figure out a couple things. One, how can we create a map that is balanced in the sense that vehicle movement and like individual movement is balanced? Because that was one of the biggest things plaguing, quote unquote, plaguing Halo 2 and Halo 3. Even though it was very fun for the average player, if you ran up against a good team, they were going to just pub stomp you. Halo Reach changed that because the DMR actually destroyed vehicles, right? If you had your whole team shoot a Warthog or a Revenant or a Banshee, you could legit take those things down in a matter of seconds, right? And that completely changed the nature of big team battle. So it made the community of BTB players think, hey, we could create a competitive league in Reach, which is awesome. So let's do it. So we got some map makers to make some maps, and we basically used all of our own new maps. There were not a lot of maps in Reach that were like you could consider perfectly balanced. I think we tried to use Hemorrhage and move some things around, but some of the favorites were like Fortress, where you had like these 2 lanes on each side with these boxes that you could hide behind, snipers in each of the towers, rockets in the middle, created like a very cool balance, but like it was almost like a perfect mix, a perfect storm of chaos and control on that map. And so each map had its own identity, even though they were all very gray. We tried to, give them their own flavor. And it was fun. Like, I remember just asking friends, like, hey, you guys want to do this? And they're like, yeah, let's do it. And then we'd play BTB and we'd recruit more people. And you will not believe this, but Frosty, who was in CLG, who won the finals, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He, and Dust, you know this, but he was actually a teammate of mine. We were playing in the playlist, BTB Reach, and he was just like in the base on Hemorrhage, defending the flag single-handedly. I would send in like 5 of my teammates while we were killing everyone outside, and he would just murder them all. And so it's like, who is this guy? And so we talked to him after the game, and we're like, man, you were really talented. Like, we're very impressed with your skill. Would you like to join us? We're practicing for this new competitive BTB tournament, first season ever. And he was totally into it. He was, I think, 14 years old at the time. And you can tell he's still a youngin'. If you've seen, he's the one in the hoodie on CLG. Very cool kid, very chill, no pun intended. And just like was always amazingly talented, was one of my strongest teammates. And we actually wound up getting second place that season, going head to head against all of the established teams. Like, no one thought that we would ever do well. And we just like recruited some really top talent. We practiced our brains out during the week. We fought some really awesome matches that I put up on my channel. And then ultimately just lost to this team that was like insanely good. So yeah, that was like really, really fun. We built this competitive community out of Reach, which was an extremely casual game, which I think goes to show that if you change the game types and the maps enough, then you can actually go ahead and create a competitive environment.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different things you have to look at with the maps and the settings. And one of the things I wanted to kind of ask you was, what was some of the stuff that you considered when you were looking at settings? And then also for map making, because Forge is out, they're gonna hopefully be looking at Forge maps for the next season, or at least for the Pro League. So what are the kind of things
so
that
you're asking? Like, what would I recommend specifically in Halo 5, or just or you're just curious in Reach? What did we do?
Yeah, so going through
it was a long list.
Creating your own league. There's obviously certain things that 343 is going to be looking at, and since you have experience on kind of organizing a league, what's some of the things that you think 343 is going to be looking at in terms of new map content and stuff like the different game settings? So like take a look at the Spartan abilities that we have. Would you take out radar? Would you kill off some certain Spartan abilities, or would you leave them all there? One of the things that Epsilon mentioned was that with the new Spartan abilities, there's even more to control, so that skill gap is even greater with the Spartan ability. So maybe that's something to keep in. So what are some of the things that you think 343 will be looking at now, taking what they learned from the Halo World Championship and putting it into the Pro League?
Dude, that is a hard question.
Hey, you did your freaking ranking system for Halo 5, and look what happened here. So I have a feeling that you might have some magic juju or something in your head that might kind of help predict where we might see the Pro League or the next Halo World Championship go. So that's what I'm asking.
First of all, that ranking series, I like sat down and processed for hours and interviewed like dozens of people and asked like thousands of people to give responses. That was like a very team, like community built thing. That was not all me. I cannot take credit for the Halo 5 ranking system. I also wanted to add Casualty A is in our chat. He said #PT because our BTB team was prison treatment. Casualty, I want to hear from you while I'm answering. What do you think they should do to the Halo 5 settings to make them more competitive based on our experience with competitive BTB, since you were there with me the entire time through Season 1? All right, so, dude, there's like a million things that you could modify. You could modify on a massive level, right? You have maps and you have game types. And each of those has so many different ways that you could change them. And the problem is that, or maybe it's the opportunity is that they need to work in sync, right? You can have a map and you can have a game type and they can just not work well together at all. So the best way to create a competitive environment is to completely tailor your maps to your game types. And so what does that mean? That means if you make a map that's all about verticality, maybe it makes sense to throw some jetpacks in there, right? Talking about reach. If you're going to make a map that's completely horizontal, maybe you should throw a lot of sprint in there, right? Or maybe some drop shields so people can like sprint as a team, hide in a bubble. Sprint as a team, hide in a bubble, right? Like I'm just throwing ideas out here. So you really need to think about, from a design perspective, how can we get the maps and the game types to work together? Now on the maps, you have lots of different things. You have power weapons, you have spawns, you have vehicles. Each of these things has a timer. You get to control the timers for each of those things. So if rockets are up too often, you can lower that. If the Warthog is too strong, you can put it up maybe once every few minutes. And that might change for the game type. So in Slayer, the Warthog might go down instantly. But on Flag, it becomes more of a priority because it can get the flag back to the base. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard to say specifically like, well, if they just do X, then Y will happen. Right? So you need to say like, well, what, instead of asking the general question, what can we do to improve competitive Halo? You can say, how can we improve the Slayer game type? How can we improve the CTF game type? Or more specifically, how can we improve the CTF game type on Coliseum, right? So some people might argue, for example, that starting with the AR, even though it's like it's more beefed up than it's arguably ever been, some people would say, let's get a BR start, or let's get a DMR start, or let's get a light rifle start. If it's a Forerunner map, maybe everyone starting with light rifles would be really cool. Maybe the sightlines would work just so that the zoom in for the light rifle would help you get those kills cross map. Maybe you want to get this feedback from the pro players, right? So if they're saying, well, I use the Magnum all the time, then great, keep the Magnum in, lose the AR. If they're saying it takes me too long to find players, add more spawns in the middle of the map. Add a respawn zone that prioritizes those spawns in the middle. I notice a lot of the time in the games that players would be getting trapped at their base, and then other people would spawn at the base, which just supports the spawn trap that, for example, CLG had set up in the finals on Coliseum on one of their flag caps. So
they did that a couple times, actually, if I remember right.
Yeah, it happened definitely at least once, probably more like a million times. I don't know, throughout the weekend. They were just so dominant. Yeah. So, I don't know. Is there anything specific that you think right now is just so clearly needs to change? Or are you just spitballing like if we put no radar, is that enough? If we make people run 10% faster, is that enough? Do we need to put more rifles on the map? Do we need to put more storm rifles on the map? Do we need more power weapons? I mean, there's huge potential, and there's just too many combinations, I think, to just say, like, do this and it will work better.
Gotcha. I'm kind of going through the list of maps and modes that we had over the weekend, and I know there's been some people that have just said, this really doesn't make sense. Why is it there? And take, I guess, Plaza Strongholds. I mean, that's kind of more well known, I think, for strong, at least Plaza for is Strongholds, not necessarily Slayer. But you take that map and you have Yard, which is kind of barely touched.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at the combination of Empire and Strongholds, and that seems to have a little more. I don't know if bounce is the right word, but it plays in such a way where there is that little more chance of a swing and for people to come back. But whereas on Plaza, if you really have that bottom mid control, and there's like if you have bottom mid and nest control, it's very hard to take Plaza back. And do you think with that kind of combination that there needs to be a lot of these maps that have more chance for teams to come back to kind of get back into the game? Or do you think that there should be more of a, like, if a team has a good setup, then they deserve the reward of getting that setup early on?
You know, the Halo 5 design philosophy is very clearly the former. It's very much, from what I've talked to, I actually talked to one of the engineers who coded the Halo 5 multiplayer. He said that their design was 100% let's not have power positions. They said, if you think of a map like the Pit, yes, it's very obvious. Someone's going to get up on Sniper Tower and they're going to start sniping, right? Like that was designed to be a power position. It's higher than everywhere else on the map. It even had that little safeguard to protect the player up there so they could just sort of camp there, and the sniper spawns right underneath. So you just pick it up, hop up the lift, and boom, you're in one of the most powerful positions on the map. I would argue that the Pit is super fun. It's one of my favorite maps. I think a lot of people really enjoy it. When they see it in rotation, they vote for it. And it's because as a player, you feel like you are having fun with that sniper rifle. You feel like you're in a strong position. You feel like you're doing maybe even like a tower defense when people are coming up to get you, right? So I think in Halo 5, they wanted to drop that to add their own flavor. They wanted to use the mechanics of the game to make it more fast-paced. And so I understand that they didn't want to have people being stationary when a lot of the game is about movement, right? And I really think Halo 5 has some of the best FPS mechanics out there. It's really cool to ground pound. It's really cool to thruster all over the place every few seconds. It's really cool that you have infinite sprint and they have the trade-off with your health so that if you're sprinting, you don't regen your health. But that said, I would love for there to be power positions. I would love for there to be setups so that I could, with my team, push into the middle of the map, take control, think maybe more like Standoff. So Standoff doesn't have, right, this Halo 3, I'm sure everyone knows it, where you have the rocks in the middle, and you sort of are poke fighting amongst the rocks. But if you were good enough, you could push them back and be behind their rocks, which then forces them into their base. And then if you get them into their base, you can like grab their shotgun, go in, shotgun them all, and then just start obliterating them outside, whether it's with a Warthog or with just your team of BRs set up at their rocks. Now they're completely vulnerable, dare I say, naked, and are just going to get destroyed from that point onward, right? So there's a natural progression, right, of pushing onto their territory, building your team's position. It's a very goal-oriented mindset. And I do not like the Halo 5 maps in the sense that I don't have goals. I'm just sort of running around looking for people. And when I'm not finding people, I have nothing to do. I'm just running. This actually happens to me on Plaza Slayer. Like you said, it's not the best Slayer map. And I think that for some reason, the flow of that map just makes me not want to play it. It's just like, I have nothing to do, nowhere to go. There's no particular thing that I'm interested in doing right now.
It's kind of a not so bad sword base. It feels like a little bit.
It's a good way of putting it. It's a good way of putting it.
A little bit.
But at least on sword base, you could like camp the lift with a shotgun or sword, which led to some really hilarious overkills. Whereas, yeah, I don't know. That's my personal opinion. And I think for Halo 6, they're going to move back into the mindset of power positions and getting setups and pushing the map with that goal-oriented mindset. I'm curious what everyone in the chat thinks. Do you guys like maps where they don't have clear power positions, where you can gather, whether it's like sights on their spawns or control of their base or guarding a power weapon? Or would you prefer it to just be like more like the Halo 5 maps where it's more circular, you're forced to run around looking for players? Very curious what everyone's opinions are.
And while everyone's answering that, one of the things I'm trying to think about too, going back to the Halo 3 maps and comparing them to the Halo 5 maps, because I think everyone would agree that Halo 3 is probably the prime of Halo competitive, is I'm thinking back to a lot of the maps that we had in Halo 3. Except for maybe some of the Foundry ones, which even they, I think, might have this kind of attribute. It feels like the Halo 3 maps were a little more open than Halo 5 maps. It seems like Halo 5, there's a lot more stuff that's in the way.
I agree with that. Yeah, why do you think that is? Is that because the sight lines is what causes power positions?
I think that could be maybe a balancing aspect of the Spartan abilities. Because you have the clamber, you have the sprint, you have the thruster pack, and you have the ground pound. So you have a lot of, for the ground pound, for instance, you're having a bunch of different things that you can climb up on all throughout the map to ground pound on something, or you have the clamber, so you can get different height advantages. But I mean, I'm thinking back to like Narrows, to Onslaught, to a lot of the other like Halo 3 maps that were used in competitive play, and going back to it, it seems like there is a little more openness to the Halo 3 maps. Granted, there are still some areas where you can kind of get around, but so take Guardian. I think Guardian is probably one of the prime maps, and you also have the Pit. Pit, I would think, is maybe one of the more kind of closed off, maybe next to Onslaught in Forge, just because you were in a confined space. But taking those two and then comparing it to something like Plaza or Empire. I mean, Empire, there's quite a bit of room on that map, but you have these bridges, you have these pillars, you have a bunch of stuff that you can kind of dash behind cover and get away from battles really quickly. And another thing that I remember them talking about on the sprint, and one of the reasons why they changed the radar from 25 meters to 18 meters was to encourage more close quarter action, more of that combat. And going back to Halo 3, you look at that and it seems like there was a little more openness because there was a little more range fighting.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because in Halo 3, the BR only had a 2x scope. And so even though you could see players across the map, you couldn't shoot them really. It was very difficult, especially on BTB maps, to BR across the map. And a lot of the BTB community loved this because it meant, for example, on Valhalla, that you would have to get up and close and personal to actually hurt the other player. You couldn't just be sitting on Pelican shooting down people at turret, right? You need to be in the middle hill shooting people at either turret or Pelican. The DMR completely changed that. So if you go to Halo 4 and you have the DMR, then everyone can shoot everybody if they're visible, which means that map movement is completely killed. So imagine in Halo 3, you can have clusters of like 4 people moving as a unit around the map using their BRs in a limited radius. And as teams of 4 would approach each other, then the real battle would start. And you'd have to use that cover and you'd have to think about your movement. Versus in Halo 4, the power positions became overbearing because the DMR would just let you pick and kill anybody from anywhere from one position. And to me, that kind of power should only be had with a power weapon, like the sniper rifle, right? That's why, like on the Pit, if you're sitting there with sniper on your base, then sure, you can snipe anyone over at rockets. You can snipe anyone on their tower. But the BR is just, it's a bit more balanced, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so I feel like if you're going to include DMR on a map or other long-range rifles that can pick apart people from a distance, then you you're going to have that sort of limited mobility. Now, in Halo 5, you don't always get a DMR, right? You start with Magnum and Pistol, and so that's good for the reasons I stated earlier.
You said Magnum and Pistol.
Or, sorry, what did I say?
You said Magnum and Pistol.
Yeah, Pistol and AR. Thank you.
Yep.
So that's like limited distance utility, which does create that really cool movement that Halo 5 really wants you to do. But as soon as you pick up, let's say, BR on a close range map, then if you have open spaces, you're just going to tear everything up. Whereas in their map design, they decided to close everything off, which mitigates the power of that range. The only reason I don't like the closed spaces is because like I said earlier, I feel like I'm always just looking for people. And so I like kill one person and then I have to like run to another area of the map. And it's also difficult to help my teammates when they're across the map. So you have to, it forces you to move, which is what they wanted, but it's forcing me to move for the wrong reasons. It's forcing me to move because I can't see anything, because I don't know what's happening, versus moving so that I could be in a better position to take cover, or I could be in a better position to help two of my teammates push the right side. I agree, Dusty. Like, I much prefer the more open expanse. I think you just have to be careful putting in too many long range rifles like the DMR.
Yeah, that's kind of the point I was trying to make, and you just said it perfectly. And one of the things that Casualty, how do you say his name?
Casualty. Oh, it's Casualty A.
Okay, Casualty A. Okay, got it. What Casualty was saying, that apparently a lot of people that are playing BTB want Magnum AR starts instead of AR BR starts because of how powerful that the BR is against vehicles. And one of the things that I think could be applied to the whole map design, kind of going back to that discussion, is limit those range weapons on the map. So you can have, because going back to the Halo 3, of course you had a little more openness so you could see. So like you said, you would move to a position because you were strategically trying to get to somebody because you knew where someone was going, instead of having to find, like getting in close because you're having to find people. And I think that's kind of where that difference for Halo 3 really lies, and what Halo 5 might be not necessarily lacking, because it is a different game. It has a little bit different play style, but it almost seems like with the reduced radar and the Spartan abilities, it seems to be a lot more, hey, you need to go in and find a person really close in order to perform well, instead of maybe relying a little bit more on the strategic aspects. And maybe if there's a little more openness, you spot somebody and then you can move together as a team. And then if you take the radar off, you really are relying a lot more on being able to spot teammates in order to have an effective strategy.
That makes sense. What was I going to say? That I guess when I was watching the World Championship, I was always surprised when you see somebody. It's like, oh, hey, there's a person. Yay. Hip, hip, hooray. And then they'd like move around and be like, oh, another person. And it always just seemed to happen very abruptly. I don't know how to explain that. Maybe it's because we're old school and we are used to seeing open expanses and seeing whole teams moving and taking position and fighting for the battlefield to be theirs. Whereas in Halo 5, I feel like it's just like, turn the corner, shoot, 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 turn the corner. Oh, there's a person, got to fight him. Turn the corner. What are we going to find next? It's almost like a box of chocolates, and you never know what you're going to get.
And I think to add to that too, it almost seems like there's a lot more kind of one-on-one or two-on-one or two-on-two battles than there are. You have the whole team setting up for something. Now, there were those moments that did happen, but it almost seems like Halo 5 encourages a little bit more tet-on-tet battles than group movement and strategy.
Tet-on-tet? Is that the male form of tit for tat?
Well, it's not tit for tat, but it's like mano a mano. Anyways.
Mano y mano. I believe that's Spanish, Dusty.
Yes, that is Spanish. I know that much.
I did not know you were bilingual. Anyways, moving on.
Very little.
Muy poquito.
Yes. Sí. So, looking at some of the other map combinations, you just tell that some of them they're just kind of throwing in there because they need some variety, and I feel that some of the map combos, like Plaza Slayer, for instance, is just one of those. It's like, okay, we'll give it to you just because there aren't that many maps to start off with, and you're only working with 3 game modes: Slayer, Capture the Flag, and Strongholds. But I'm really hoping with the next season and with the Pro League that 343 will take time to really get in touch with some forgers that are making these arena maps, because that was one thing that was huge back in the Halo 3 days, is that you did have forgers that would come in and make these awesome competitive maps, and they would get played by pros, and pros would kind of endorse certain maps, and then that would get evaluated and thrown into the competitive circuit. So I want to see that kind of thing from the forge aspect start to take place, and see a lot more emphasis on power weapon placement than having to rely on the de facto game modes within Halo 5, and kind of I think most of the weapon placements on the maps that were used were the vanilla weapon placements for those maps. So also looking at different weapons to use on the maps and really evaluating map strengths and what power weapons to have on there, because every map had a different set of power weapons, and it's really crazy to kind of keep up with it all. You had railgun, you had scatter shot, you had the plasma launcher, which Goldenboy really loves the plasma launcher. He says the plasma launcher is the new meta basically, and you had rocket launcher and sniper rifle. And I don't remember, there wasn't always that kind of variety of power weapons, really. I mean, going back to Halo 3, wasn't there
in MLG?
Yeah, wasn't there almost
in MLG the Mauler was a power weapon? Like, that's how few power weapons there were.
I just think they need to, and this is just my perspective, and I'm not any competitive like map maker or game type aficionado or master of any kind, but it almost seems like they really need to evaluate, like you were saying, really look at designing maps specifically for game modes, and then kind of get away from the whole vanilla aspect of Halo 5 Guardians and make something that's specifically for the competitive players.
I want to touch on what Haas said in the chat. I agree 1,000,000% that the symmetrical maps work really well for Halo 5. I think that syncs perfectly with the concept of Halo 5 as a competitive game, because historically, symmetrical maps are the competitive maps, right? It's like, we're designing this map such that red team and blue team both start on an even playing field where both of their perspectives are identical, they are equidistant from all of the power weapons, or they both start with the same power weapons on each of their respective sides, etc., right? And the asymmetrical maps are always known to be like fun-ish. You can definitely think of like Zanzibar being the standout Halo 2 or Halo 3, Last Resort, like standout asymmetrical maps for one flag or one bomb. But asymmetrical maps have, I'd say, fared very poorly in competitive Halo. I can't really think of a strong asymmetric competitive map. And anyone, please correct me if I'm wrong here.
Guardian Oddball?
Can anyone think of a... Okay, sorry. So I was thinking like for Slayer or Flag. I could see how Oddball might work on an asymmetrical map, because it's just a little crazy.
Yeah, to extend on what you're saying, I almost think that for Slayer and Capture the Flag and the other game modes that are like the two sides, so maybe Assault, symmetrical is almost a must. But for something like King of the Hill or Oddball, I think those might be a little more loose and can actually benefit from an asymmetrical layout.
Yeah, Haas said, Lockout and Guardian are also really good examples. But yeah, there are very, very, very few asymmetrical maps that just click and are just like awesome, super perfect for competitive play. Whereas I think if the map is designed for its symmetrical nature and it's designed with only the competitive spirit in mind, that it will just have things in it that make it more fun. It will make it more competitive. It'll make it more exciting to watch. I know that a large reason that developers stay away from symmetrical maps is because to the untrained eye, it's very difficult to know where you're going to be on the map at any given time. One of the biggest offenders of this was Zealot. You guys remember Zealot from Halo Reach?
Yes.
So that was just like a giant purple circle. And even though they had like a blue lift and a red lift, it was very confusing even to players who played a lot where you are when you spawn. And that's a design issue, is as someone spawns, they should know immediately where they are on the map, whose side of the map they're on, and where they should be going to get back into the fight. So basically, let's see, everyone's talking about high ground and isolation. High ground was definitely an asymmetrical map, but that was not an MLG map. And isolation was up till B3, and then they dropped it because it just didn't work. Add Fiesta Slayer to the next tournament.
Oh gosh,
that would be fun. That is the opposite of competitive.
Yes.
But hey, if you want to have, I think they should have like screw around, asymmetrical Fiesta Slayer games while there's a commercial or something. Why not?
That'd actually be an interesting idea. Just have a few people that are maybe part of the audience say, "Hey, here's some stuff to fill." That's an interesting idea. I want to jump to an interview real quick that I did with Goldenboy and Walshy and a couple other special guests. We talked about their views so far on the tournament. I believe this was after the second day, and got to talk to them. And I asked Goldenboy about his opinions on the plasma caster and the scatter shot as well. So you'll get to hear a little bit about that. So yeah, enjoy this little bit from Walshy and Goldenboy.
So we're done with day 2, quarterfinals, semifinals done. I'm here with Walshy and Goldenboy if he decides to come on over here. Yeah, sure. But yeah, so we're just after the quarters, after the semis, we got the finals tomorrow, Allegiance and CLG. What do you guys feel about going in? And at least it's only finals, so it's not as hectic. But what do you guys feel?
As much Halo as possible. I don't want to only see finals. I want to see them play 100 games back to back because it's so entertaining seeing these players game. End of the day, though, I think both squads are looking ridiculously strong. If I'm forced to choose one, got to go with CLG.
I would rather them just sit there for the rest of our lives and just play games, and I think that that would get a lot of viewers. Because it'd be like live. Just whipping boys, it's just fantastic. No, seriously, Dave always goes for the safe choice. He's not a risk taker. He doesn't live his life dangerously. His name isn't Alex Skilltastic Mendez like me, okay? Because no one else has that name. ALG, baby. Allegiance all the way. I'm going with my boy Nated, bringing it home for the Bay Area. That's what I want.
So, G-Man, I know I've been talking to you.
You did not do that to me. Go ahead.
So I've talked to you a little bit yesterday about your plasma caster and your scatter shot feelings. And so, I know plasma caster is a new meta, and scatter shot is the devil, from what I heard. So what's your backing behind that?
I like to make bold claims. So Plasma Caster, though, seeing Liquid really take advantage of Plasma Caster on Rig was really fun to watch. I don't think a lot of people have appreciated what the Plasma Caster is capable of doing because they still think of it as a plasma grenade when it's not. It functions more like a regular grenade, right? Or a regular grenade launch, like the Pro Pipe, from back then, except, you can shoot multiple shots at the same time. Oh yeah, I love the Pro Pipe. It's awesome. But the scatter shot. If there was is there foul language allowed in the podcast? Or you keep it PG? It's a dick. It's a dick. 100%. Scatter shot. It looks like a dick. It is a dick. It never wants to work when I use it. So whenever someone doesn't want to work with me, they're a dick. So that's just the way I look at the scatter shot. But bold claims, bold shot is the new meta. Okay. Bold shot. I've seen the light. Bold shot's the new meta. Walshy's going to disagree. They don't care. Scatter shot is going to get removed from the game completely because I've been complaining enough to Quinn this weekend. I think we're going to actually make it happen. Hashtag get rid of the bold shot, please, because it's a gun that sucks. It's a whole hashtag. And scatter shot is going to become the most OP weapon in the game. 100%.
Walshy, your comments.
I was going to say those exact words, believe it or not. So Alex covered exactly what I was going to say. I mean, took the words right out of my mouth.
I look at that. Great minds think alike, man. Great minds think alike. Incredible.
Awesome. So what do you guys think of the event? I mean, the production here is insane. I'm sure everyone online has seen just the insane amount of work that's been put into this, and the audience here has been so hyped up. What will you guys take back from this, from like the biggest Halo event that has ever been on any kind of esports scene for Halo?
I mean, it's some legendary stuff, man. You know, we're witnessing history, which is going to be really fun. And I'm almost certain we're going to be, here a year from now saying the same exact thing. So I have a lot of confidence in Halo esports, and I know there's always a lot of people who like to doubt certain things and criticize. But at the end of the day, man, like we all love Halo, and this game's awesome. This community's awesome. The players are amazing. Everyone. I've done so many different games. And no game has a community quite like Halo, right? It's driven by raw passion and not the desire to be famous, not the desire to be, the dankest memer in the world. It's driven by pure love and passion, which is incredible. And I'm so pumped for tomorrow.
Yeah, everything across the board for this event has been incredible. The competition level, the production, the audience, and the casting staff that we have here. I couldn't ask for more. I mean, it's going to be an event we remember forever. And I think that might be a phrase that's overused. But at the end of the day, I mean, every once in a while we highlight something like Ace's World Championship win for the Global Championship individual event. And he won $200,000. And yes, we remember that to a degree. But Halo has always been and will always shine as a team game. And that's why this event will be remembered over Ace's event any day of the week. I mean, people are going to reference back to who won $1 million.
This is it. It all comes down to this, right? I said the catchphrase before. I'm saying it again. CLG, it's destiny. For Allegiance, it's fate. And a story will live on forever. And that is the best part about esports, and that's the best part about Halo.
I wish we had Sims here to drop some like mad movie reference, because he's been dropping those all during the stream today.
He's an awful commentator. To be honest with you, I honestly think we could have gotten, I don't know, just like any other British person other than Sims, and it would have been fantastic. And as I shake Timo's hand, Timo from ESL, I want him to know that I think he should fire Sims. So
and I've heard you don't have an ego, and everybody knows that.
Yeah, 100%. I have no ego. I don't know who's saying that, but I think after this I'll go to my own trailer and reflect on how good of a job I did this weekend over everyone else, because I'm a global icon and a national treasure, and that's just what I am.
Das Green Skull?
What? I'm now here. I came into existence. What am I saying? Hello.
I don't know, just your thoughts.
Thoughts. I'm
The man of simple words.
I just want to say I'm not an egotistical person, but like you just got to play this thing up, man. People hate it, and it's amazing. I've been living my life just throwing shade at people. Walsh, this is me now, okay? Do you accept me?
I accept you.
Yes. Embrace me, Dave. Embrace me, Dave.
I wish I had a camera right now that was actually on this moment.
Well, it's going to be fun, though. Are you excited?
I am very excited. I'm very much looking forward to what's going to be after this. I mean, this is huge. Best production ever. Biggest prize money ever.
And you know what was truly great? Truly, truly great. Goldenboy.
I'm afraid to say another name that's come up over the weekend with the fear of getting punched or something. Or
I would never lay a hand on you, but it would be emotional if you were to say something other than my name. And honestly, it would severely tarnish our relationship. So choose your words lightly.
Well, since I value my friendship, I think I'll leave it to Alex on this point.
Goldenboy's like fine wine. Right. Fine, interesting tasting wine though. Stuff that's different that you're not used to necessarily. But you find it in a musky basement. Yeah, really. And you don't like it at first.
Yeah, it's a very hot grape. Definitely. I look like a grape too, which is fantastic.
Certainly, yeah.
Okay, this is back to Dave. Go to Dave.
How do you feel about time travel?
No, we're not getting into that. We're not going to go. Dave, go answer.
I'll say have a good one. I think that closes our very well-structured podcast.
Well, hopefully I'll be able to get a bit from you guys tomorrow. But this has been fantastic, and
Absolutely.
We'll see you guys on the finals.
All right.
See you tomorrow.
All right, so that was our interview with Goldenboy, Walshy, and other little special guests, Green Skull and Timo. So got some interesting conversations, as you guys heard there. Some interesting stuff about our friend G-Man. the new nickname for Golden Boy. Thanks,
Goldie.
Thanks,
No,
Sims.
what did he want me to call him during the interview? For those who don't know, I was actually with Machinima. I wasn't planning on going to the Halo World Championship Finals live, but Machinima reached out to me to be a reporter for one of their new eSports shows. So I was like, wait, you're going to pay me to go watch Halo? Like, that's amazing. Definite yes. And so I got to do interviews with a bunch of cool people, and I interviewed like pretty much all of the casters or half of the casters in one of the interviews. And Golden Boy was like, please introduce me as like National Treasure Global General or something like that.
Oh, I know what you're getting at. Yeah.
Something ridiculous. Yeah, so Golden Boy is forever now and forever forward is the national treasure of America.
Yes. Yeah, he was touting that the whole weekend, and then there was something else he was touting. Gosh, I can't remember. It was just an interview too, but yeah, you can go back and listen to the interview. And there's this whole kind of spiel going on between the commentators or the casters throughout the entire weekend, just really random things. And we actually got to talk a lot after the fact. So for Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night, I pretty much got to hang out with 343 folks and the casters. So got to talk to them a lot. Got to really enjoy their company and got to meet some of the international casters as well. So two fairly new casters were on the scene there. So Wrath, who is from Australia, and then Onset, who is, I think, also from the UK, coming along with Sims. So it was really interesting to get to talk to them all. And one little funny story was, I think Strong Side was up with Golden Boy up on the caster desk at some point, and one of the operators was like calling Strong Side strongholds, and Strong Side like heard
that was really funny.
Heard what was going on, but he was still talking, he was commentating, and then when he finally had a chance to stop, I think they went to a listen in, and he's like, my name's not Strongholds, it's Strong Side.
Oh, good old Strongholds. Such a nice guy.
So we have Strongholds now, we have G-Man, National Treasure, and I don't think anyone else got any nicknames, but there was a lot of I think Bravo, Sims, Walsh, maybe, I don't know if Walshy did, but and Golden Boy like called each other the wrong names. So like Golden Boy would call Bravo Sims accidentally, or Sims would call Golden Boy Bravo for something. So there it was obviously a very busy weekend for the casters.
Yeah, I was gonna say those characters are not even somewhat related. Like,
no,
how do you even?
No, they're not. And I always forget how tall Sims is.
He's a tall man.
I forget that he's
for all you
almost
ladies
as
out
tall
there.
as I am.
And you a tall man for all those ladies out there.
I am a very tall guy. That is very true.
You're the gentle giant, Dusty.
I appreciate it.
You make the best cookies.
I didn't bring any cookies for you this time. Dang, I forgot to do that.
I know. Selena was disappointed, but she still likes
I will
you.
be. Aw, thank you. I will be up there in June though for E3. So I'll have to bring them then. Or heck, I could just make them there.
Yeah, that's true. I have this thing called a kitchen, which has this thing called an oven.
Yes.
Which does this thing called baking, which makes these things called cookies. If you're interested.
How does one bake in Halo?
Dude, don't even ask these questions. I have no idea.
Good times. You can tell that
I'm
we
Naked
get
Eli, not Chef Eli. Well, I guess I'm Fluffy Pup now, but
yeah.
Mostly Fluffy Puppy.
So let's talk about the teams a little bit. So we didn't get to see much from the international teams except for obviously Epsilon, who actually made it to the top 8. And I'm going through some of the results, and quite a few international teams hit the bottom of the pool. I'm seeing 0-3s and 1-2s
for the internationals.
Yeah, but looking at Epsilon, I'm very happy. They were actually very pleased with their performance. And when I interviewed them, you heard the interview. Most of them were expecting that they could make the top 4, and kind of following up with them afterward, I believe they got knocked out either 3-1 I think it was 3-1. They got knocked out by. Oh no, sorry, it was 3-0. They got knocked out by Elevate. So they seem just kind of like, they seem just kind of out of their element that day, which it kind of sucks. But making the top 8 for an international team, they knocked out the other US team that they knocked out was Cloud9.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive if you think about it, and here's why. The international teams, correct me if I'm wrong, Dusty, we had 4 from the UK, 1 from Australia, 1 from Asia, 1 from South America, and did I miss New Zealand?
Yeah.
Was that the other team? So,
yeah, so
okay,
it was,
so think about that.
Actually, it's 3 UK, 1 German, 1 Singapore, 1 New Zealand, 1 Australia, 1 Mexican.
Did I say 4 UK? I meant 4 European.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the 4 European teams, they all are able to compete with each other, just as the 8 US teams are able to compete with each other on whether it's the same server or a close by collection of servers. They're able to essentially, if their team is a knife, they're able to sharpen their knives against each other really, really well. And over time, as the meta develops, in America, the American teams are able to go along with that meta, offer new strategies, offer counter strategies. And if you think about just the time it takes to process a meta for a game, right? For the rules to change, for new jumps to be found, for tricks to be discovered, for plays to be made, and for players to recognize how to move around a map, that's something that is irreplaceable. And if you're looking at the Australian and New Zealand teams, they're basically just sitting there playing each other all day, every day. And so they develop like a very specific play style just to basically counter their brethren overseas, right? And when they go head to head with a North American team, which has been sharpening their knife for months and is so many hours overall as a community ahead, they literally stand no chance. And that's how the players who I talked to felt. It's like, if we could play with the North American players, that would be amazing, right? If the Asian team and the South American team could compete with the Australians and the Europeans and the Americans, and everyone were truly competing on a global scale, then it would be fair. Then you might see some of these international teams really break out into the top 4 semis or finals. But so long as we have dedicated servers and the complete separation of entire competitive communities, you are always going to see the largest competitive community win the lion's share of the seats in the top 8. And I think that's how it's going to be. And I don't see a solution to that unless the world gets gigabit fiber.
The entire world.
The entire world has gigabit fiber through all the oceans.
Come forever. On, Google, make it happen.
One day.
One day.
Yeah, all they can do is play with each other. That sounded wrong. But yeah, the North Americans are at a huge advantage. That's all I'm trying to say.
Right. But it's still impressive that Epsilon got into the top 8. So huge kudos to them. And again, they were a great team to talk to. I would love to have them on the show again. And I think they're definitely in a good position. I think they help kind of encourage maybe a little more interactive participation from some other teams. Maybe we'll get some interest for some other players to actually get some more of an interest and get some more teams actually competing on an international level. So that'd be really cool. Looking at some of these other teams, though, there are some very interesting, I guess, upsets. There are a lot of predictions, and I know the casters kind of talking on stream, a lot of their predictions were just out the window when it came to pool play. They were expecting some teams to outperform other teams, and Renegades was actually one team that was not expected to do nearly as well as they did. Renegades being Ninja's team. They made top 8. And did they make top 4? No. They got beaten out by
that was the
Allegiance.
Big upset.
That was, and I mean, that was another thing too. There was a lot of different upsets during that weekend that a lot of people weren't not expecting, which kind of made it exciting.
Those are definitely the most exciting games. Like the fact that it was just crazy. Like Allegiance was down 2-0, right? In games. They were on the 3rd game. It was a flag game. I think it was on Coliseum, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Coliseum. And I could be wrong on the map. I remember it was CTF.
I had the map list here. Third game was CTF Coliseum. Yep.
Boom! I'm a god. No, I'm just kidding.
There you go.
So yeah, they were. This was the last game. Not only were they down, I guess I should say at 0-2 against Renegades,
yep.
but they were down 2 flag caps, and they had no flag caps. So they're 0-2 in their series. They're 0-2 in their third game in a flag game. It's literally the bottom of the bottom. Like, how do you come back from that? And Allegiance just stepped it into hyper gear mode, went super ham, got 3 flag caps in a row to win their third game 3-2, and then proceeded to win the next 2 games to shut out Renegades with a 3-2 from an 0-2 deficit. I mean, that was absolutely insane for them to not only come back then to make it to top 4, but then to make it into the finals after being at basically the bottom of the ocean with 1 gasp of oxygen left in you and making it all the way back to the surface.
Yeah, it was very impressive. It was the first play of the bracket stage too. It was the first game that was broadcasted, which made for some great entertainment. But then there was CLG and Evil Geniuses, and the rivalry there, no one was expecting CLG to beat out Evil Geniuses 3-0.
Right, I was going to say, they were expecting CLG to win, they just weren't expecting them to 3-0.
Right.
And for those who don't know the drama, Lethal was on EG, Evil Geniuses, and then he said, YOLO, I'm out, after Evil Geniuses had an amazing performance the last couple seasons, and joined CLG, caused all these roster changes, being really annoying about it the whole time. And then going up head-to-head against his old squad, they just crushed them. It was like swatting a fly away from them, 3-0. So it just speaks to just how dominant CLG as a team really is.
Yeah. And during the whole bracket play, there was just these performances that came out of nowhere where people were just, I mean, like the caster said, their brackets were totally screwed up after just the pool play.
Yes.
And then we had so many good matchups in the quarterfinals that it just made, like, it would have been nice to have the finals be a good matchup. Not to say that Allegiance and CLG wasn't a good matchup, but the way that the bracket got drawn was just gut-wrenching because you knew a lot of good teams were getting knocked out in the quarterfinals.
Yes, but that was just luck of the draw, right? Like, Microsoft wasn't going to rearrange the brackets just to make it a little more entertaining. So it is what it is.
Yeah. So the bracket got drawn, Elevate versus Epsilon. Poor Epsilon got 3-0'd. Then it was Renegades and Allegiance, CLG and Evil Geniuses, and Liquid and Denial. All really great matchups, to be honest, for the quarterfinals. And then you had Elevate Allegiance for the semis and CLG Denial on the other side of the semis. Not quite as spectacular in terms of matchups. And yeah, it just seemed like the action, the way the bracket got drawn, it just seemed like all that action was stacked up at the front, and it would make the championship Sunday just not quite as entertaining. Like, I think if we saw maybe a couple of these quarterfinal matchups in the finals, like if we had Renegades and Legions, or if we had CLG and Evil Geniuses, I think it probably would have made for a better showing.
I don't know, man, because Evil Geniuses got 3-0'd, well, and I think they would just would have gotten 4-0'd in the finals.
Well, if ELG played as we knew Evil Geniuses could play, not that they played their best. I mean, for everyone that knows, I'm an EG fan just because Towie is an ex-Podtacular pro clan member, so kind of supporting the legacy there. And
Towie's just a cool dude.
And Towie's a really cool dude as well. But I know for me, watching Evil Geniuses, their heads were not in the game. They were not playing smart. They were chasing after kills. Their strategy had them separated. And overall, they just did not play well in their quarterfinals compared to what we've seen them do in the Halo 2 anniversary stuff. So I know they can play better. It's just they didn't come out to perform. Sorry, guys.
They let Lethal get to them mentally, I think.
Yeah.
And that maybe that was his strategy all along. I don't know.
Could be, but if Evil Geniuses came out to play like I think a lot of people know Evil Geniuses are capable of playing, it wouldn't have been a 3-0. But beside that, if we actually had Evil Geniuses show up, any one of those 3 matchups in the quarterfinals would have been a great finals matchup.
That said, though, I do think that we saw one of the best stories come out of the finals, which is that you have Nak3d, who's this Halo veteran, been around the community competing for 10 years, and has never won a tournament ever.
And he's
never taken home and he's a father. He's got a child. He has a little kid, and he's trying to sit here and win his first tournament for $1 million. Like, if you're going to win a tournament, this is the tournament to win, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every single person under the sun was rooting for him and wanted him to win and didn't want the evil CLG clan people to like get satisfaction out of crushing everybody, but they did. And people sort of called that CLG was going to win that finals. No one was surprised with the outcome, but
right.
I think we at least all had hope, especially after the first game went to a tie. We had hope that Allegiance would pick it up.
That first game, oh my gosh. That was tense.
Oh, it was so intense. Yeah, it was a great game. But I interviewed Frosty after the match. He said Allegiance has a weird play style, and all they needed was to see it once. And then they figured it out, and in the second game, they 3-0'd them in 5 minutes. So, sad day.
Yeah, that's too bad. I hope Nak3d sticks around I'm assuming he can only stick around for so long, but because he's been there for so long, it would be nice to see him actually win a tournament.
I agree.
Yeah. Moving into another interview real quick. I got a chance to interview Elevate. I think it was just after the quarterfinals, I think. I can't remember. I think they just got done beating Epsilon in the quarterfinals, and they were getting ready for their semifinals. So this was a short little interview. I caught them in the players' lounge just for a brief 5 minutes, just to kind of get their aspect on it. This is the only American team that I interviewed, believe it or not. This is what Elevate had to say.
What's up, Podtacular? Duststorm here at the HCS World Finals. We are here with Team Elevate, who just took on their first quarterfinal and actually got it over Team Epsilon. So they knocked out the one international team. So congratulations to you guys for taking the quarterfinals and making it to
Thank you very much.
the semis. But you guys are really excited. How are you feeling after making it through the pool play and now you're into the semis?
We're feeling good. There's still work to be done. We're not done yet.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we haven't dropped the game, so we're feeling pretty good about ourselves. We expected to come to the event and get top 8, maybe. But the fact that we're playing this well means I honestly think we can win this whole thing.
What are some of the roadblocks you think you have to get to the finals and then ultimately take the championship?
Well, obviously, Allegiance is the one standing in our way. You know, Nak3d's been playing a little bit longer than I have. I've been playing for 9 years. He's been playing for 10.
Oh!
Yeah, old. And, you know, he wants this, and I know he wants this, and I know his whole team wants this, but we want it just as bad. So, you know, we have to get through them first.
So what is it like playing on an international stage where you actually have a bunch of international teams, and you guys had 2 international teams in your pool play, and you just knocked out the one international team that was in the top 8? How's it been like playing against some other teams that just haven't had quite the experience as American teams, but have different strategies?
It's felt pretty good. Like you said, they were the top international teams, and we came here knowing they were going to be really good, but we didn't underestimate them, and we came for blood, and we showed them that.
Very good. Now you're out for semis, and that's, I believe, you're guaranteed $250,000 for your whole team, which is amazing.
Yep.
It's one of the biggest tournaments ever for Halo.
Yeah, single biggest console game.
Yep.
Or tournament, rather. Yep.
So what are some of the things that you guys have done differently for the World Championship versus some other tournaments that you've competed in the past?
Well, obviously, our biggest change was our position at coach. We had Corey, which was Calm's friend, and, you know, he played a a good role, but I think with Chig, we've actually elevated our gameplay, no pun intended, to a much higher standard. Everything that was with small talk issues or things that barely made us lose games, Chig is there to actually help us, and he plugs up all the holes that we really need, and I think that's a big reason why we haven't dropped a game yet.
Yeah. So as a coach, what's kind of been the big thing that you've had to kind of gear the team towards for this championship, that where you've had to tweak something, or like there's certain things that the team has had to work on in order to really compete on an international level?
On an international level, I think, something that, up-and-comers don't really realize or need to work on the most, like Penguin, is just how crucial it is to run together in twos and small talk. And I think, bringing in just a little bit of that into the communication that they have is like a huge step for them.
What do you guys consider as your biggest strengths on the Halo 5 scene? Because this is the first time we've seen Halo 5. It's a new game, and Strongholds is a new mode. Where do you see is your greatest strength as a team?
Honestly, our greatest strength lies in our communication, in my honest opinion. I think that the more hectic game types, we're really good at slowing it down and really controlling spawns and making sense of it. I see a lot of top teams, they just kind of start screaming things, and I think that that's something that separates us from them.
And as far as other things that have gone on with the championship, you've overcome obviously a lot. How is it kind of leading up to with the online play, and you have dedicated servers now? How has that been? Because it's kind of gone away a little bit from traditional LAN, and now we're finally in a kind of tournament setting. So how's the online qualifiers been for you guys?
Okay, so online qualifiers, they do have dedicated servers, but it depends on like where you're located. Like it can be really trash for you. So I know one of our biggest problems online was Calm's gameplay, because online he's just not nearly as good as he is on LAN, because he doesn't connect well to the servers. Like he just gets a lot of server issues, so things don't connect for him, which will affect the play he's trying to make, which will affect our overall gameplay because he can't get the plays done that he needs to get done.
So last thing before I let you guys go, first of all, thank you for taking time to talk. But
oh yeah, anytime.
What's the one weakness you think you guys might have that you need to really lock down before you make it to the finals? What's the one thing you guys think you can really...
they're kind of all staring at me, so I guess I just have to play my best game.
Yeah, it all depends on how Swiftkill plays, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm putting it all on him.
So as long as my hands work fine, we should be good.
Well, best of luck to you guys. Thanks, everybody, for letting me take a chance to talk to you, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that was Team Elevate, and I actually know one of the managers behind, actually one of the co-founders. You might know him too, Sing Mao.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
I used to play with him all the time.
Yeah, I think he was one of the co-founders of Team Elevate. So I got to chatting with him and managed to snag a quick little interview. So that was really awesome of him to help me get that set up.
Very nice, very nice.
Yeah,
he was on MT,
yes,
I believe, with
Master
one of my
Theory.
good old friends, Matt Clan. And we used to compete against them in season 1. They were considered one of the oldest BTB teams, been around for a very, very, very long time.
Very nice.
So it's cool to see him. Yeah, it's cool to see him getting into the competitive scene.
Oh yeah. So that was an awesome interview. So huge shout out to him for helping me get that set up. And I think we're pretty much, close to wrapping up. Let's discuss the finals a little bit. I know we already have mentioned it a little bit, but again, CLG just was the team that performed throughout the entire weekend, and they definitely earned the title of Halo World Champions. And going back to that first tie game, it came down so close. Well, it was 1-1, right, for the tie, if I remember right.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I think it's right.
It was intense. Everyone in there was going crazy, and we were thinking it was going to be a grand series whenever we had the tie there. And like you said, CLG just figured out the strategy that they needed to use, and there was a other glimmer of hope too because of the quarterfinals when they came back against Renegades. They had the 2 games down, and they had the 2-0 flag, so there was even the glimmer of hope that Legions might kind of dig their way out of a 3-0 deficit, and especially how well they performed on the first game. But in the end, they couldn't pull it out, and it was a good series to watch. I don't think it was nearly as bad as the CLG Evil Geniuses one. It was definitely kind of hard to watch, especially since Allegiance did put out such a great performance for the first game, and everyone was rooting for Nated because he had been for long. And one of the things that the casters was saying, was it Destiny for CLG to win, or was it Fate for Allegiance to win for Nated? And clearly Destiny came through for CLG. Yeah.
No one plays Destiny anymore.
Except for Crew Legacy.
What am I kidding? I stopped after like a month. Anyways.
Yeah.
So I agree. Yeah, we really wanted Nated and Allegiance and those guys to win. Unfortunately, it wasn't in the cards. CLG's too talented, too strong. And game 2 was a massacre. Game 3 was a massacre. Whichever one was the stronghold game, they were down like 0-60 or something before they got their first point.
Yeah.
It was horrendous. I think they lost like 100-16 or something. And then the fourth game was actually pretty close, similar to the first game.
CTF Fathom.
Yeah, and we thought that there might be a comeback, but alas, CLG took the win ultimately. So CLG with that schmexy 4-0 for $1 million, split between at least 4 players and a coach. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty cool for Halo players to be making hundreds of thousands of bucks.
And I believe there was also the statement that came out from BBC or maybe Bloomberg or some other website, but this was the single largest prize pool for a console competitive esports event ever.
That's true. That is 100% true. And I remember what I wanted to say. I thought it was also really cool that Microsoft took the route almost like League with the LCS, and they are funding the players to attend. So I think for all the teams who just made it to the finals, each of the players got $25,000, which was really cool.
Basically paid their way there to come play Halo and have some fun and have a little extra change to take home.
Yeah, why not? So it keeps the players interested in playing, make sure they're not starving on the streets. This is going to help them build up their brands and build the brands of not only the like Cloud9 brand, which is across multiple competitive esports, but also build the brands of players. And in an ideal world, you'll have like the Tom Brady of a team, right? You'll have like, for example, Frosty, let's say he's always on CLG and he'll be on CLG for the next 5 years, then he'll definitely have a following and his audience will be pulled into the CLG brand potentially. And that is where the real money is, by the way, is when the brands support your events and when the players can actually start to get followings. That's when they can start to demand more revenue. And when their salaries go up, they become more consistent with that team. And then other teams have to up their salaries if they want the top players, etc. So assuming that Halo sticks with this in the long run, we should start to see esports become more of a thing that you can actually do like as a parent and sustain a small family, hopefully.
So one of the interesting things that, since you mentioned that, whenever they announced the Pro League, Frankie actually has a little article up on Waypoint, and he kind of goes through describing how when they want to take Halo and its competitive roots towards how athletic sports has kind of developed. And one of the things he said in here, the ancient Greeks had Olympics. The world tunes in every 4 years to watch soccer and is the most viewed contest on earth. And at a more granular level, schools, communities, and individuals compete for bragging rights in everything from baseball to darts. No surprise then that video games follow suit, and no surprise that we want Halo to be at the heart of that movement.
It's ambitious.
It is.
Considering all the other games currently at the heart of that movement.
We have League, StarCraft, Counter-Strike. Halo's trying to get in there.
Yeah, those are the true competitive titles right now. Halo was... What did we have? Like 80? Did we peak out at like 80,000 viewers for the World Championship?
Over 100,000 confirmed.
Okay. Oh, so there you go.
You hit 6 digits.
And so that's really good for Halo. However, League of Legends has streamers who, like, when they sign on, they get 50,000 viewers on average. So to have like a $2.5 million prize pool event and to only have like 100,000 viewers is actually extremely minimal. So it's a great start, but it's going to take a very long time for this thing to grow, and Microsoft is going to need to keep at it, and they're going to need to keep at it in the right way and push it in the right direction from a community level, not from a top-down perspective. And maybe in 5 years, Halo will be up there with Counter-Strike, but it's going to take a lot of work to get it there.
Definitely. I think one of the other things, too, is kind of the maturity of players and maybe the maturity of teams, seeing teams actually stick together. And granted, I know football has like drafts, so you have team changes every single year, but being able to stick with a team and actually be able to kind of develop that, being able to recognize and play off of each other's skills and really develop that team cohesiveness, I think that might help a little bit. One of the things that I talked to Timo about was the fact that you see these players kind of bouncing around teams, especially during the online qualifiers. We saw these bounce around, and then Lethal, within days of the deadline with the team locks, leaves EG to go to CLG and has that whole kind of disturbance there. But it'd be nice to have teams that kind of like stick together and really develop as a team to really hone in on that kind of thing. And I don't know if there's another thing that might be like, because with a lot of athletic sports, you have kind of your hometown team, or there's one team that you're rooting for. But at least with Halo, it's a very mixed bag right now. You have people that will root for a team because there's one specific player on them, or you have someone that will root for a team because of the brand or whatever. And there's not really a similar support structure that is identical to athletics, I think, in esports, that is still maturing, that until we get there might not be as big as athletic events. But I can see somewhere down the road where video game events, and I think we're already starting to see that with Counter-Strike and League, where those kinds of events will be as big as some of our athletic events. And I would like to see Halo get up there, but I think there's a lot of work that has to be done, and there's a lot of stuff that, one, the community has to be able to support, two, 343 has to do to encourage community support, and that the community is okay with supporting, and three, making something that is appealing, because it's going to be hard to take people away from Counter-Strike. That's been an established franchise for such a long time when it's come to the first-person shooter genre. And on the console side, Call of Duty is the big one right now, even though I think a lot of us here are...
LOL COD.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's the most boring esports on the planet. Let's be honest, like, no one wants to watch that. Just a lot of people play it, and that's why they have an audience. But no, Dusty, I agree with every single thing that you said. And I think time will tell, because Halo World Championship this year, 2016... had 100,000 viewers-ish with, I don't know, what would you say, like 150 viewers live, right, in the watch area, seated and observing the tournament from the venue.
I think it was 250 was the seating.
Okay, thank you. 250 versus League of Legends in the Staples Center.
Yeah.
Or
Ouch.
Dota with their like 10 million, or was it Counter-Strike with this $10 million prize pool. The online esports community is so far ahead of the console esports community, it's laughable. So Halo is trying to break in. Halo is trying to become the king of console esports. Time will tell. We will see.
Exactly. So thank you, Eli, for joining us. I don't know if you have any last comments about where you would like to see the competitive scene go in the future.
Well, it's my pleasure to join you, Dusty. I would love to see Halo grow and evolve. And now that they have the first Xbox One title out there, maybe Halo 6 will be everything we ever dreamed of. Maybe they'll solve the campaign cliffhanger. Maybe they'll put some of the speedrunning things back into the game. Restart button. That's
Give
my
him his
real
gamer
hopes.
tag back.
Yeah, right. Can't wish for everything. But yeah, I think Halo is going in the right direction. I think they're making the right steps. I hope they continue to make the right steps for the right reasons. I am nervous given what I've seen from 343 being, I want to say bullied around by Microsoft, but being controlled by Microsoft as an in-house studio in terms of pushing out Halo 4, in terms of pushing out broken Master Chief Collection, in terms of pushing out an unfinished Halo 5 product with some, I don't know, questionable map decisions and a questionable rec system. We will see. I hope that Halo 6 is everything that we want. And I will continue to give feedback and talk to anybody who is interested in making Halo 6 awesome. I will still always be a Halo fan. That will never go away, ever, till the day I die, even if I'm not constantly making content or streaming it all the time.
Awesome. So we do have one final interview. I was able to chat with Team Immunity after the end of the finals. They're one of the, they are the Australian team that came and competed. They didn't obviously make it to the top 8, but I did get a chance to sit down with them afterwards as we were all kind of eating dinner after the day and get to ask them about what their experience was like coming over to the States, competing in the Halo World Championship, what they were looking for throughout the competition, and all that stuff. So here's the final interview we have from Team Immunity.
The Podtacular, Duststorm reporting back from the Halo World Championship, which just ended about an hour ago, and we saw the victors of CLG take place. But I am sitting down with Team Immunity right now, all the way from Australia, one of our international teams that made the top 16. So thank you guys for taking the chance to sit down after the finals. I know it's probably been a long trek for you guys, but if you would go ahead and introduce who you are, what your gamer tag is for everyone listening at home.
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having us. Always a pleasure to do interviews. So I am Aaron Bennett, filling captain for our actual captain, Hef, who's actually not here with us right now due to an injury. But yeah, I'll pass on to the next one.
I'm Matthew Barker. My gamer tag is Voltage, and I've been on the Team Immunity team for about 5-6 years now.
My name is Ryan Jr. Dunkley, and I'm filling in for team captain Hef.
I'm Daniel Franken, commonly known as Seduce Online.
And I'm Sean Haller, Dark. I'm the coach of the team.
Very nice. Well, thanks again, guys, for taking the time to talk to me. But one of the things I know a lot of people have been asking about the international teams is, what is it like playing against everyone in the world now? So Halo's traditionally been a U.S. competitive team sport, but now we're branching out into the international scene. So what is it like to kind of break into that scene, and how does it feel?
I mean, it's all of our goals. I mean, we practice it back home in Australia, you know, and we've reached a certain ceiling there, I guess you could say. We've sort of been winning events for the past 6-7 years with our similar lineup, and I mean, we just watch the US, and it's the next step that we need to take. So, I mean, we watch them play, and we try and analyze how they play, and try and bring that into our gameplay back home. But there's a certain level of like a ceiling that we reach basically in our teamwork, where you can't actually move forward until you come over and play these guys in North America. So that's why we're here.
So among a lot of the teams that we saw in the tournament, what was kind of the ones that you really paid attention to, that you looked for strategy to kind of update your game, to see where you're coming in? And what were some of those teams that you really looked up to, and now that you're trying to beat here at the finals?
Leading up to it, we definitely were watching CLG the most. They were, after they won regionals in a dominating fashion, we knew, and I think the whole competition knew, CLG was the team to beat. And luckily, Lethal was the only one who pretty much decided to stream after regionals because, well, for numerous reasons, but a lot of people didn't want to stream just to steal strats, or they thought they played worse when they streamed because they got distracted. So Lethal pretty much was, I think, is a real role model to who to watch and watch how they play, because at the moment they are so far ahead of the rest of the competition. I think that shows it with how dominant they were in the finals. So yeah, definitely Lethal was, and trying to base their gameplay, our gameplay, around how CLG do things, because whatever they're doing it right.
So for you guys, I heard some of you guys say that you've been playing Halo for as long as 6 or 7 years. How did you guys get involved with Halo? And is this something that you've been pretty much doing Halo for 6 or 7 years, or you've been kind of bouncing around between different games? What is it about this game, and how did you get into it?
I originally started competing. I just played local lands in Halo 1, which was 12, 13 years ago, whatever it is now. And I guess I kind of moved took it a bit more serious as Halo 3 came out. I think that's sort of when the community exploded. That was just a fan favorite game that was really easy and accessible for new players to jump into and play. And I think with Halo 5 as well, that's one of the better things is this probably is the most accessible game for new players to pick up and just search the playlist and you're immediately playing the most competitive game types that, everyone here competing is playing the same game types. So, yeah, I mean, it's really fun and competitive out of the box, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's got a future in this industry. So.
For myself, only being 17, I've only been playing competitive Halo for about a year. So I haven't been around too long, but to be given the opportunity to come to the Halo World Championship when the $2.5 million prize pool's up for grabs, it's an honor, really.
Like Benno said, I've been playing, and Benno's been playing from the roots of the beginning of Halo, really, and it's such an amazing first-person shooter. We probably all agree. I mean, there's a few of us that play a few different games, but to make it to the World Championship, you really need to devote most of your time to the single game. And the fun, intense gameplay that comes from Halo just allows us to keep focusing and keep playing and building our skills.
Awesome. So out of everything that you've seen so far this weekend, what was kind of the one thing that you guys really feel that you can take back with you as you look for coming back to possibly, because they announced the Pro Leagues, and they've announced that there's going to be another World Championship. What are you going to be focusing on and working on? What are you going to take away from this championship to bring to the next one?
For us, I think looking at it, we're not too sure if we're going to get a Pro League in Australia yet or not, which I believe that America, maybe Europe will be getting one. So we have to wait and really see until further details come out for that to know what we're going to do, because we'll definitely be back at Worlds next year. I believe we're not going to stop. We all want to do that. And actually, unfortunately, our captain a week ago broke his hand a week before we flew over here, so it caused us to do a last-minute team change. And he loves this game more than anyone, so that really hurt him and affected all of us, to be honest, because we're all such good friends playing for so long together. So he's more hungrier than ever. And right now, we can't just come in and seeing how everything's set up here. It's only going to get bigger and better, and it's something we really want to come back to and make a bigger impact. And we'll definitely be a lot more well practiced. We'll probably try and come over here a bit earlier to get a few more weeks of practice in against the top teams, because that helps us tremendously, just to have it that level of competition to play against.
Yeah, as Walshy just said about Hef, pretty devastating losing him and a bit of a setback, but next time I think we can all agree that being more prepared and coming over here a bit earlier will definitely help us out in the long run.
Awesome. Being an international team, there's obviously a lot of pressure. There's a lot of different strategies that Americans have. What's kind of the thing that you've picked up that you've changed with your game seeing international teams play? You mentioned that Lethal was streaming a lot of his games. Did you guys pick up a lot of strats from that before you came over here?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think we try and I believe most people try and base their gameplay off CLG. They're leaps and bounds ahead of everyone.
There's a reason why they're the champions, right?
Yeah, they're leaps and even the close games and the games they lose, I feel like they lose based on their mistakes a lot of the time, and they know that. And I think basically we just try and replicate what they do in their game into ours. But I think the biggest difference coming over here was just their individual skill, not necessarily aim, because I feel like everyone here on this squad can aim with the best of them, and we've shown that we can outshoot them and hang with them. So I think it's more so their individual decision making and staying alive a lot more and a lot longer. Those 5-6 seconds that they stay alive is the difference between them holding a setup and us breaking that setup. So I mean, it really is. When you get over here, it's a bit of a reality check on how easily a setup can be broken if one or two people make mistakes. So yeah, I think that's definitely what we're going to take back from this trip. Just staying alive more and just focusing on ourselves, I guess.
Awesome. So what is the competitive scene like over in Australia? We obviously hear a lot about the US. We hear a lot about Europe with Gamescom, but we don't really know what the competitive scene is like down in Australia. So tell us a little bit about how that works.
We've got a few top teams. Obviously, we've got us as Immunity, and we've got Exile 5 as well. So like the New Zealand and Australian communities kind of form one community because we don't have that big of a population. Mm-hmm. But for regionals, we had about 5 pretty solid teams that had been practicing for since the game came out anyway. And so I should expect us to probably get that, maybe a few more now that Worlds has just finished. Should see a lot of new players enter the game as well. So yeah, we're not as big as the US or Europe, but we do have, some fairly good teams that can really put up some good competition when everyone gets practicing.
I think just to touch on that as well, I think we got close to about 20 to 30 teams in the actual online qualifiers. So the teams are there and they will play if there's something to play for. And I think that's something we just need to show as a community and really prove to 343 and Microsoft that we are ready to play and we want to compete with the best. So.
Good. Well, I hope you guys are able to make it back whenever we have the next World Championship. What do you guys think about Halo 5? There's been a lot of talk within the community about how it compares to Halo 2 and Halo 3, and the glory days of competitive Halo are back. So what do you guys think of the game in general? Do you like the Spartan abilities? Do you like some of the changes? Do you like the maps that have been introduced?
I mean, I personally love it. It's the most competitive out of the box for sure. There's no question about that. It's really like you can outplay someone extremely badly in this game. As you've seen on the finals, there was a lot of outplays. So, I mean, your Halo 3 and your Reach and even 4. We weren't too involved in Halo 4. We kind of took a bit of a break. But Halo 3 and Halo Reach especially, it's pretty standard. Most of the plays, it was just whoever had the better teamwork won, which is still the case now, but there is also that level of outplay where, teams can take games off CLG if someone on the other team is heated up and on fire, and that's that X factor that makes the games exciting to watch. So.
And yeah, another big thing about Halo 5 is if 343 and Microsoft keep adding content to it, I think it's only going to take the game further because we just want to get more maps, more game modes, and it'll keep more people interested in the game for longer. So yeah, I think the lifetime of this game should also, extend to a fairly long time.
Is there something that's not in the game right now that you guys really like to see back? I know in the past we've seen Assault be a game mode, King of the Hill be a game mode, and Oddball. Is there anything that you want to see back in Halo?
Yeah, Oddball and King of the Hill. We're saying that I do really like the whole new concept of strongholds, but I'm a real traditional Halo 3 player. That was my standout game, and my two favorite game types were King of the Hill and Oddball. And I think, to be honest, I think with Halo 5, some of the maps would be perfect for Oddball. Like your maps like the Rig and Eden, I think and Plaza would be perfect Oddball maps, and it would make a really competitive, good game type. And yeah, I'd love to see those come into competitive in the next year for next year's World Championship.
Awesome. One question I got from Reddit whenever I asked people for questions when I was doing this interview setup was people want to know what your controller layouts are. So you guys want to share those? What button layouts you have?
I play on bumper jumper with 3 sensitivity and 5 acceleration, and I use an Elite controller, a Microsoft Elite controller, and just use the left paddle for thrust. It makes me be able to aim and thrust at the same time, so you can aim mid fights and throw the enemy off and not have to take off your hand off the controller to try and thrust. So yeah, that's my setup.
As Voltage just explained, there is a new mechanic called thrust, and most people do need a paddle on the back of their controller, and in order to have that, you need an Xbox One Elite controller or a SCUF controller. And these are just modified controllers that allow you to press a button on the back of your controller and it'll do it for you. And the only other way that you don't need one of these controllers is if you do something called clawing, and it's just a way that you grip your controller. And myself does that, so I don't need any. I don't need any paddles on the back,
bro.
Nice.
Yeah, I play with an Elite controller as well. Bumper jumper, 3 cents, 5 XL. That's the key. I don't know. It's just, I guess it's individual preference, but like the other boys said, the paddle is the X factor. So.
I play 4 cents and 2 acceleration, but my sensitivity never seems to be as high as Benno's, so I've started to question myself. I play bumper jumper, and as far as paddles go, I use 2. My left paddle is a thrust, and my right paddle is sprint, which allows me to turn auto stabilization off and have full control over my Spartan, which I find really helps with all elements of my game. And yeah, I just do the standard bumper jumper with the thrust paddle down on the bottom left, but I play inverted.
The coaches have controller settings.
Yeah, they do. They play the game from time to time. But yeah, I don't know why everyone gives inverted such a hard time. I shoot just as well as anyone else.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's whatever you're comfortable with. I mean, most pros play between 3 and 5 cents. And there's also, as these guys are saying, something called acceleration. And it's a new feature that they've added in. And it just helps you customize your sensitivity a bit more, make it a bit more accurate. But yeah, like I said, at the end of the day, it's whatever you're comfortable with. There's no right setting for you to play well.
The other thing to consider is playing around with the dead zones on the controller. I know most of the players on Immunity keep the dead zones at default, but a lot of pro players from around the world turn their dead zones right down to 0, which gives them full control over the very inner ranges of the joysticks.
Gotcha. Well, guys, it's been a pleasure to sit down with you. It's been awesome to see a bunch of international teams, including you guys, make it over to the top 16 in the world. Unfortunately, you got knocked out in group play, but I hope to see you guys back at some point whenever we do this again. Any last comments that you would like to to say? Twitter accounts or any shout outs you want to make?
Everyone go follow Voltage right now. I am _Voltage. He's probably the most handsome player here and the most experienced in and out of the bedroom. So,
I can attest to the handsome at least. So,
no. Thanks again to yourself, obviously, for the interview. First and foremost, thanks again to Team Immunity. They really set us up on such short notice to come over here and practice against American teams, which we've come to learn in our couple of events that we've come over for. We really need the practice over here. So the longer we get leading up to an event, the better and stronger we're going to perform. So, and 343, Microsoft. Without them, this whole event wouldn't be possible. It's amazing. The setup was amazing. The production value was amazing. Everything about it was perfect. I couldn't think of any ways to improve on it. I'm sure they'll figure out a way next year anyway. So.
And thank you to the fans and the players of Halo 5 who actually made the crowdfunded pool possible. And that'll continue to boost esports in the future.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So that was our interview with Team Immunity. That is going to actually wrap it up for us tonight. We're going to cover the Pro League once we get a little more information. For those who don't know, the Pro League is the continuation of the Halo Championship series within Halo 5. There's going to be more details on that. And from kind of what I gathered from people at the Halo World Championship, this is going to be something that will be in the US, most likely UK, and probably in Australia. There's some discussions going on how international is going to be involved with. I think ESL is doing a lot of that management right now. So that's still being developed. That's still being discussed within 343 and their partners. So once we have a little more detail on that, we'll actually do another podcast to kind of explore what the Pro League is going to be. Maybe even try to get some 343 or ESL folks on the show to discuss it as well. So we'll have a little more information on that. We also have some news that we haven't been able to catch up on. I've actually moved. So for everyone that is listening to this, and actually if you were part of our special podcast last time, which actually isn't released yet as of this recording, but will technically be the podcast right before this, but we were on the Griffball Hub fundraiser stream, which for those listening live, there's a couple days left. If you're listening to this in download, it's already closed. Sorry about that. But I've moved, and my house number is actually 117, believe it or not. Shocker, right? So I've been moving. I haven't been able to keep up with news or post stuff on the front page for Podtacular, so I'm really sorry about that. But all that to say that we have an update for the next content update that's going to be coming out. It's called Ghosts of Meridian. It includes a new arena map called Tyrant and a new Warzone map called, what was it? Skirmish at Dark Star. So we're getting 2 maps for the next update, and then we're obviously getting a slew of wrecks, new weapon skins, new armor mods, assassinations, visors, helmets, armors, emblems, all that fun stuff. So we'll actually be covering that more next week. The live stream, the preview live stream for all that content is actually next Tuesday. That is April 5th at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure you check that out, which also means that it's likely that the content is going to be coming out next week as well. So we'll be doing a podcast next Thursday to cover all of this content that is coming to Halo 5 for this next month, or actually this month if you're listening to the download, on our next episode. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Also, make sure you check out our podcast network. We are part of a conglomerate of gaming-specific podcasts, including Critscast, which is a TF2 podcast, Guardian Radio, which is a Destiny podcast, The Learning Cliff, which is an EVE Online podcast, and then Work in Progress and How to Murder Time. Make sure you go check those out if you're looking for other podcasts to help pass your day at work or help your drive to or from work. Then those are definitely highly recommended shows. Please check them out and please let them know that we sent you and go show your support for them over there. Thank you, Nak3d Eli, or Fluffy Puppy, one last time for coming on. It is great to see you back in the hot seat.
Gracias, senor.
Yes, hope to see you streaming a little bit more since your capture card is working again, and get to see you play some awesome games with your ridiculous setup.
Yeah, it was fixed by a magical fairy. I am thankful for that fairy. Thank you, magical fairy. Dust storm. And maybe I'll be streaming tomorrow, which if you're listening live is tomorrow. And if you're not listening live is not tomorrow. You were the one who told me, Dusty, about Portal Stories Mel. No, I told you about it. Someone else told me about it.
You told me about the story, and then I told you about Portal Prelude.
That's right. I want to play both of those. Those both sound amazing.
Yes.
Anyways, yes, Thank you for having me, Dusty. It's been a pleasure. Always happy to come on. I'm really happy I actually got to make it to the World Championship and see everybody and experience what that was. It was an insane event in terms of its like design and production, and did get me hyped for what is to come. So I'm sure you guys will learn more about the Pro League when Dusty unravels those details in the future episodes.
No, it sounds like I hold the keys with how you said that. I hold all the info regarding the Pro League.
You are the gatekeeper.
Anyways, that is going to wrap it up for us tonight. You can find Nak3d Eli over at Naked Halo on YouTube and GA Norberg on Twitter. He changed his Twitter handle. So make sure you go check him out. And you're still Nak3d Eli on Twitch, right?
That's correct.
Naked_Eli.
Naked_Eli. Yeah. Yes. Nak3d.
Make sure you go follow him on Twitch. Subscribe to him. I just saw that I hit a resub on your channel. So there you go.
I don't deserve it, but thank you, Dusty.
Well, you better be making my money go somewhere now that you have the capture card fixed.
That's true. That's true. Planning on it. I hope to be back. I missed the games, man. It's been too long.
Well, looking forward to seeing you back on.
Thanks, man.
So that's going to wrap it up for us tonight. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. This has been episode 534, covering the Halo World Championship, and we will see you next time. I have one last little audio bit that I recorded for a discussion of time travel between Green Skull and Goldenboy.
Or will there only... What was the question?
Okay, the question is, if you made a time machine, say so like some big structure that you had to like, you walk in, you teleport or whatever.
Right.
You can go forward in time. Could you go back in time before that was made?
Have you ever heard the argument like you can only travel back in time to the point where time travel existed?
First existed.
No, I think,
so in theory, when you first activate the machine, a copy of you will walk out.
But why would you just make a machine that could go back with you?
No, did you?
What dick would do that?
It wouldn't have existed.
No,
I think time travel has always existed.
Once we discovered time travel, and it is the point where you only
we would have had it.
travel back to that point.
No.
Yeah, we would have known about it.
Okay. No, we haven't. We haven't discovered it.
That'll be the furthest back you can go.
Dan, I think we're gonna have to get going. Did you want us to leave, or this is not real time? Okay, bye.
There's a very serious discussion going on here. All right.